Today on
Doomed!
This past weekend, Chile voted on a new progressive constitution. A chance to basically put the era of Pinochet behind them in the most strongest way possible. And everyone I spoke to before this weekend thought that the vote would at least be close, if not in the favor of this new constitution. Yet, here we are, just days later, and the voters in Chile have rejected that constitution in what looks like a pretty astoundingly way. We'll talk more about this in just a second with my guest, but it seems like they wasn't close. Let's put it that way. And joining me now to discuss what happened, and first let me pull us up on the screen here if you're watching the live stream. Longtime listener of Doomed with Matt Binder, friend of the show, and really sort of unofficial Latin American correspondent for this program, because he always calls in to give us the latest of what's going on in like the Cliff Notes summarized version. But today we're going to go a little bit deeper into this issue because I think it's a big deal. Renee Moncayo. Renee, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, everybody. Hello, chat. I'm taking over for the time being. For the day.
This is the first. I think you've been listening to this show since the very beginning, all the way. I should say live in Chile. You're not someone who's Chilean but moved here 30 years ago and hasn't been back since. You are a
right. It's kind of like the flip side of that. I used to live in New York, very close to where you lived, like around the block from Donald Trump's old house.
Right.
And then I moved to Chile.
Right.
Were you born? Like around 12.
Were you born?
I was
there?
born in Chile.
Right.
No, I was born in Chile, and then we went there just before the coup and stuff like that.
Ah, got it. How long have you been back in Chile?
No, a long time. It's been like 30 years or something like that. I mean, I left in 1985, even before the crack epidemic, shall we say, in Queens.
Oh, even before I was born. I mean, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I relate more to Papa Binder.
Right.
You remember Mays? You remember Fortunoff?
I should say you're not that. I'm making it sound like I was born in 10 years later. No, you moved away just a year before I was born.
Right.
But this was really interesting because you called in last Tuesday, or maybe it was the post show for Scam Economy, my other program on crypto. But you called in last week, and you gave us a little bit of a quick lowdown about what to watch, what to look for, what to sort of pay attention to. But
I was very insecure about the process. Right?
You were worried, but I don't think you were worried to the point of that you were expecting these results.
I was like, it took very avenues. It was either that we were going to lose, or
close.
Close, or it was going to be there was going to be some sort of a backlash. Even now, you can see there's a kind of a anti-backlash, but shall we say that there was building towards this election. The dollar had raised immensely. That could be explained because of the war in Ukraine. It could also be explained because of boating, shipping. I mean, the cost of oil. Also because of the post-COVID-19 economic context. But it was basically a dollar reached 1,000 pesos, and then gradually it stayed at a 900 pesos. And now, because of the election results, funnily enough, now it's 860. So that's kind of fishy.
Right.
Talking about my background.
But let's sort of move back now. We were just talking about your feelings about how this could have gone last week. But before we jump into what actually went down and why it happened and how it happened, let's go back a little bit more to sort of give people a little bit more context because this show does talk about international politics, especially getting into reactionary movements across the globe, right wing
Oh
extremism
no,
across the globe,
there's a lot of
and
them.
yes, and that we're definitely going to talk about all of that. But it actually starts. I haven't seen much about this, so I think for my mainly U.S. based audience, we do need to go back a little bit more and sort of
Right.
lay this out for them. Now,
I think Left Reckoning kind of like the other program kind of like tried to cover this.
oh no, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Matt Leck of Majority Report, his show Left Reckoning. Definitely check them out. They are another great left wing show that, thanks to the influence from Michael Brooks and how that show came out of the Michael Brooks show, they do definitely try to uphold that value of internationalism and paying attention to what's happening among the left across the globe. So definitely check out their coverage on this. But
can I
for
do
this
a speed run, like a very quick speed run, like of Chilean history?
that would be great. I don't know how far back you're gonna go, but
I'm gonna go way back, but to a certain point, like a speed run.
all
So
right.
you can even time me or stuff like that.
Basics. Break it down for people who know nothing. Like talk to us. What's that Reddit shorthand internet phrase? Tell me like I'm five or whatever. Just like that.
Right.
We're all kindergartners or however. I don't even. I have two kids. And I don't even know how old.
Yeah.
What grade 5 year olds are in? What is that? Kindergarten, maybe pre-K. Um, Talk to us as if we are in kindergarten. Break it
Well, that
down
would be
for
like
us.
kids, there's a
Well,
magical
not
land
the
called.
actual tone, but there you go. Go ahead.
Right. I'm kind of like sounding like Herbie Walker there. So basically, yeah, the speed run of it is that Chile is kind of like very being as remote as it is, and it could be like only comparable to Alaska or, for instance, Australia for the Anglosphere. Is that basically it was very difficult for the Spanish for the Spanish conquest, and it has a very strange thing about it of a being conquered twice, because there was like an explorer that went in to get a feel around the place, but he kind of like it proved to be too difficult for him, and he also came from like a sort of like a conflict with the official conquistador in Peru, as you know probably from your family, Pizarro, who fought against and defeated and overthrew the Incas. Okay. Um, then afterwards, in the independence of Chile, that was actually a complicated process that involved like two republics. And in between, of course, there's like the the Mapuche uprising that even is an influence to this day, shall we say, and it also influences like the current constitution. So it was a strange thing that basically there was like a first republic that around like 1812 that kind of like used the fact of Napoleon's conquest of Spain in order to be independent from Spain. This is even before Peru. And the thing is that basically the usual suspects, the landos or that didn't agree with the way things were handled, and basically tried to sabotage the process with another um, uh, independence leader who had ties with Venezuela, but not in the case of Maduro and all that, but back then with people that were like very important with the whole independence movement that had to do with Simon Bolivar and all those people. So basically, they actually like preferred. Some of them actually preferred to be on the side of the Spanish, sort of like the loyalists in New York during the Revolutionary War, or they just try to sabotage the process until they could have like their own candidate, who was like an Argentinian foreign independence leader who got in and participated with this who was basically the son of the viceroy, the Spanish governor in Peru, who was Irish. Now, going back then, there was like a always like a from then on there was like always a consideration, the idea that and you can see this in the Facebook today, that people in Chile, because of being of a remote land, are usually ignorant, downtrodden. They're usually, I think I said like in Cunhal de Izquierdas and on a podcast that basically we're kind of like, and he kind of agreed that that happens in Spain as well. It's a kind of like cultural thing that we're kind of like a workhorse, that we're used to being whipped and beaten and stuff like that until we give out and we either revolt or collapse. Um, so basically, usually people in Chile didn't have like much to say about their destiny. There were several constitutions, always like written from the oligarchs, from the landowners, always involving. There was always like the influence of the Catholic Church, and
Today though, isn't Chile one of the strongest or biggest economies in South America?
yeah, it kind of that kind of like fluctuates in terms of like of Peru and Uruguay, but I mean, basically, yeah, we managed to. There's like the guy that I wanted to invite, who was like an author who had written. I have his book over here. Let me see. Baradi. He kind of like wrote like an unofficial history of Chile, because it was always the history of Chile was always written from the basis of the bourgeoisie, of the power.
What's his name?
Basically,
For you showed the book, but for people who listen to the podcast version of the show,
Jorge Baradit.
got
There
it.
we go.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Right. He's usually writes like comic books and science fiction, but then he started like writing, because he wrote a book called like it was like a kind of like a alternative history, and it was about like the computer project that Allende wanted to institute with the help of Stafford Beard. It was going to be like a whole like a network that would manage Chile and would like give like reports on agriculture and the economy and such. Yes, you might say that that Chile is kind of like, even though we tend to be like a bit chaotic and very emotional, there's another side of us that are kind of like pencil pushers and stuff like that, which is kind of weird. But the thing is that what Baradit says, like in his regarding history, is that basically it's preferable to maintain the stability, both of social stability as especially economic stability, because back in the colony we were kind of like the granary for instance for Peru and stuff like that. Even though at the same time we were like where the Spanish went to die, we were like kind of like the Afghanistan, the Vietnam of the Spanish Empire, even more so than the Philippines, even though Magellan died in the Philippines. So anyway, there's always been like coup d'etats. There's always been like a civil war. There's always been like some hand from above, as Baradit says, quieting down, pushing, repressing, as Tim Pool sings about the will of the people, shall we say.
That was very
The
clever.
real will of the people.
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't know if I cut you off. Was there a little bit more
No, no,
background you wanted to give?
I want this to be a flow of back and forth.
Oh, of course, yeah. Should we jump in now to sort of, I guess, not into this what currently happened, but should we now jump forward a bit now to
I guess we could say like what was the
the
previous
the current constitution? Yeah, what?
constitution, right? And what was the
Yes.
process behind that?
So
Yeah, so as I was saying,
the one that's currently in that's the it's the law of the land there. That's the constitution that currently governs over Chile. This is from
I think there's a photograph of the the current constitution, and there's also an elderly gentleman that's kind of like signing something. If you can like bring those photographs up.
oh yeah, Renee. For people watching the YouTube version of this show, Renee has provided visual aid. He sent me before coming on with yeah, he's prepared. So here is a photo of the previous constitution with and this is what Renee put with this. The previous Chilean constitution that in 1980 during the dictatorship was voted upon under highly questionable circumstances. So you're talking about Pinochet.
Right. There was like
Um,
a plebiscite, but at the same time, there was like a blackout. There was, of course, political repression, and of course,
so
it's highly questioned. Right.
before I bring up that other photo, let's talk about a little bit about what you mentioned there. What are those highly questionable circumstances?
Well, there's torture. There's the fact that it is a dictatorship. There's also the control of the media.
Right.
Um,
I just wanted to get a little bit
Basically, there
more
was
specific so people could
there
understand.
was
Yeah.
like very promotion against the rejection of that. I mean, the campaign against the Constitution. There was also a heavily like nationalist, patriotic sense of what this meant for Chile. Um, and of course, I guess the scare regarding the economy. At the same time, there was the threat of a war with Argentina, and previously, like in the '78. So they were kind of like writing on that, like making, of course, like as fascists usually do, like this whole like epic for the state and things like that. So basically, this was heavily. I mean, within the United States, there's two important figures like Buchanan and who was an economist that was very tied to Ronald Reagan, for instance, and there was of course Milton Friedman. They're very influenced because Pinochet was actually like I usually compare him to Jordan Peterson. He has like a very reedy voice and very ridiculous. He was basically he was someone that didn't like enter like with a very idea of like what to do with the economy. Basically, it was told like to sell off like to privatize everything and like put key people from the military and his contacts in. But basically, how to articulate this, it wasn't really very well thought out until these gentlemen, because it was seen as like the complete opposite of Marxism or socialism or social democracy. So basically, it says first off, our Constitution is anti-Marxist. Second, it says like the importance of private property. It doesn't say the difference between personal and private. It's private property is like the key from the cornerstone. Now, who wrote this? There's another gentleman that kind of looks like me. He's kind of like balding with glasses. I think there's a photo of him. He was like the
Is this
ideologue of this.
Jamie Guzman?
Yeah, Jaime
Oh, right.
Guzman.
We're talking about.
Yeah, James
Yeah,
Guzman.
we don't pronounce the J in Spanish. I forgot. I'm sorry. So Jaime Guzman, right. I
Unless
totally
it's
said that like a New Yorker. I
unless
was like, oh,
unless
it's Jamie Guzman.
yo.
Hey, it's Jamie Guzman here. All right, no.
Yeah, it
Jaime
was kind of like a repressed figure,
Guzman. Yeah.
It was kind of like
All right. So this
tattoo
is
Francisco
this guy
Franco.
this guy looks like
He was a POS. He was a piece
looks
of
like a 1980s villain, like from an action movie. Like this guy would be up against Bruce Willis. He looks like
I don't know. He looks like heavily repressed. I think he'd be holding a cat, but he would be like a kind of like a cat mom or something like that. It's
all
not.
right. So you wrote for him. He's a far right ultra Catholic ideologue that helped write the 1980s Constitution, making it, like you just said, decidedly anti-Marxist in favor of private property.
Right.
How did he get to that position to be
Well,
like
basically, he
what
was
yeah.
in the time of like Allende, he was like in charge of like a political fascist action group that was called like Patria Libertad. That would be like the fatherland and freedom, as you can see, very very democratic. And they were kind of like in charge of like opposing and leading like terrorist actions against Allende and the scourge of communism or whatever. And he was kind of like their ideologue, and that later on evolved into through the previous right-wing liberal party called the National Party. It split, and one of those parties became UDI, which is more like tied to like Catholic ultra-conservatism. That's called like the Independent Democratic Union, but it's neither independent nor democratic, and not even a union these days. So basically, what he did was basically proofread and write this, where it also kind of like the role of course, the role of women and in the workplace and regards to. I mean, it was kind of like an MRA. I mean, but on the other hand, abortion wasn't illegal until like the last years of Pinochet. That was like a kiss off. It was like kind of like a final like a love letter, I guess, to say in other words, like a middle finger to Chile having voting him out in the plebiscite. So the main things that like there's another gentleman that's kind of like writing a document, that photograph. He reformed the Constitution back in 2005, but that was basically on two or three key things, which was basically the idea, because they were so afraid of like the encroachment of the left, and they kind of like put like Christian Democrats, socialists, and there was like kind of a fear of like the entire political process. It was called corrupt. It was called like they were only going to disagree among themselves. The best thing about it was also always like a strong autocratic hand that was also involved with banking and finance. That was like the idea of stability, which I grew up in. As I was saying, I grew up practically in a kind of like religious cult. I was very lucky that nobody called me like John Stuart Mills or anything like that. Like a on the left, they would name their kids like Vladimir or Joseph Stalin or something, you know. So or Fidel, for instance. So basically, there was that. There was so in order to prevent this, they instituted like designated senators that they didn't that weren't elected. They were chosen basically, or of the ties with Pinochet, or basically because they were former presidents. They called it was because of merit, and there was also several key those in within those same designated senators. They were called senators for life. In fact, Pinochet was a designated senator, and he was supposed to be like a senator for life until what happened in London and stuff like that, and he had to retire from public life allegedly because he had health issues. He was trying to use the same excuse as Erich Honecker from the East German Republic used in order to avoid being held to trial and things like that. But in his case, he was actually infirm. So what Ricardo Lagos, this socialist in name only, but instituted in this new like reform of the Constitution, he eliminated with that, and I think there was also something to do with the fact that there was like some shaky thing about that only 2/3 of the political parties had to be like in agreement in order for there to choose designate a candidate, and if there was like a certain margin, their votes passed immediately towards their opponent. It was like very iffy. I mean, a lot of things like a lot of things in Chile are like with the fine print and stuff like that. So allegedly, all of those things were done away with. And Ricardo Lagos, that president in 2005, says finally Chile has its own like democratic constitution. But actually, we were just getting used to, okay, we won't upset the financiers, we won't upset the military, and we'll just continue on and just have like this appearance of a democratic republic, in which was called like a sort of like transition stage from the dictatorship. But that cost like a lot of votes from the former center right, center left, sorry, coalitions. Well, center right left coalitions that was in power in Chile. Sort of like interrupted by 2 terms of this kind of like Trump Berlusconi figure, who was sort of like a president for Trump. I guess Berlusconi's like the granddaddy of them all. So so basically, how this government got into power, got famous, was that they led like around that time, like in 2005, they led like the first student protests that really picked
Right.
up, and like
And those were widely covered. Like even yes.
right back in the day, because they were like very like confrontational, like in South Korea and things like that. I mean, even like Black Lives Matter and things like that, that people like try to fearmonger, were very timid. And I mean, if you compare like the Chaz towards like downtown Chile, like what happened like back in and in 2016 and all that, it's very shy and very timid. So we have a tradition of like opposing. I mean, there was always like anarchism being developed here in Chile because they basically um, they didn't see they still saw like the same usual suspects, sort of like the Baader-Meinhof in Germany, that were kind of like afraid of like that there were still people and put in power by Pinochet that were still like controlling things, like especially in the military. We're kind of like being held hostage by the military. And of course, this affected like things like education. That education there was municipalized. There was like a lot of these things like charter schools, like a lot of things that are being developed nowadays in the United States and being promoted, whether it's on a state level in New York or nationwide throughout the United States. Um, and and of course, with that, problems of infrastructure, and it's very, very different. Like uptown, like where I live, like a private school that has like ties to Great Britain or the United States, or a Catholic school in comparison to a municipal charter school, and and the protests started because of that, because of those like social differences and of course like this also has to do with pensions as well, and private pensions how there isn't like a social security or anything like that that can assure people to have like both healthcare or have like a decent amount of money for them in their old age, which was like which it was instituted by Pinochet back in the 80s, and it used like this guy. Not many people know him, perhaps, but perhaps you might know him. It's a generational thing. Like Sao Gigante, Don Francisco, he moved to Miami and did like his whole show. It was a whole thing in Univision. Doesn't matter. It was kind of like a mixture of gong show. Well, he promoted like the privatization of like the pensions and things like that. It was like it's a parody. It's like Chile's like a tragic comedy. It's like kind of like a very
Well,
rambunctious in that.
right. That's a good way to put it, I guess. Right. Now, I want to make sure we lay it out here. So, and you've been doing that. So let me just even summarize your summary. So we have the where this the current constitution comes from, and sort of then you went into how that sort of whole everything that happened in Chile over those decades sort of brought this protest movement, this sort of revolution from the more left wing factions in Chile. Took a while, but they came out, and
Right. It was kind of like it kind of like started to be like little by little like there were like the communists, the anarchists, and then all of a sudden, since the communists like moved closer to power and like tried to doing coalitions and stuff like that, they became disenchanted, and there was like this current like ideal of being apolitical, which I find that follows that discourse that Pinochet used, is saying that politicians are only there to ruin the process.
now, how do we get from there to the current president? Because when he was elected, all I saw in the U.S. was the media coverage from the U.S. was, oh, Chile, basically rejects the past how many decades and
Well, of
elects
course,
a millennial socialist president.
right. I guess you might have suspected him because he was wearing a Nine Inch Nails or a Tool um, shirt instead of like a Rise Against or Moss Icon or anything like that.
Oh, well, is he? Is
Right.
he? Does he wear those shirts?
No, I
No,
told you what he was wearing.
I know.
But
Just,
I mean,
so
I
go
like
ahead.
I
So
like
give us
I
give
like the
us
Nine
how.
Inch Nails. I mean,
Right.
right.
So give us how we get to the
Right.
the
But I should
the
say
the, the
also like this. There's this process in between, like the transition stage, where during Pinochet there was like a sort of like unofficial blockade. So if you had to like do businesses like exports and things like that, you had to do it from Israel, from South Africa, from Saudi Arabia. You couldn't do it directly from the United States.
ah
So basically, when at the same
right.
time that Democ was like with I guess the plebiscite and like Pinochet stepping down at least from the executive power, there was like a wave of neoliberalism, like a free market, all of a sudden, and at parallel, like from with the Soviet Union, like of coming from the right, this whole like blockade or something like that was lifted, and all of a sudden we got like more products and more influence, like, and there was like this whole push of like developing industries regarding whether it's timber, or we were trying to avoid like blackouts and things like that. So we are pushing for more electrical supply with the hydroelectric plants that also like would enroach like these native lands down south. And that also has to do with that. For instance, for the Mapuche, they'd say like, no, we were kind of like subjugated, and we were like kind of like participating in the fight against Pinochet, but we weren't really active. We were kind of asleep. But then after, because for the most part, Pinochet kind of like left them alone, unless he tried to do like promote. He would dress up as like a Native American and like do like very like campaigns like that. There was like a lot of like buying up land and things like that, but nothing like very like savage capitalism, as we call it, like capitalisme sauvage, as it would be in French. It would be like sorry, Zoe. Would be like kind of like the encroachment of these like timber companies and things like that, and like removing like land, like native trees like the Araucaria, the monkey puzzle tree, from the territory, and put like trees that would yield more like a revenue in a shorter period, like I guess like pine or and such, like or maple, whatever. And that's where Mapuche native nationalism started to be stronger and push against it. And they saw like this whole like democratic process is actually like kind of like a actually like an invasion and like a usurpation, like a sort of like how the West was like stepping onto their territory, like the influence of the West and all that. I mean
Now,
the right.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, for instance, what I was saying, like, last week, like, the native term for, like, a white person is winka, which is kind of like a white ghost or a person without, like any ties to the land. And that's what the new constitution was trying to do, was give us back our identity and ties to the land.
Right. Now, okay, I think you jumped ahead a little bit. How? So give us a little bit about how. A little bit about how we got here, like how we got to a point where Chile went from this like dictatorship, very right wing regime, to electing this. You know, we talked about
Well,
the
there was various left wing figures that finally disenchanted people. I mean, one of the presidents, our presidents, leads the Human Rights Commission, and there's like been a great hullabaloo because she was kind of like probably had like one of the worst periods, if even the United States was blatantly violating human rights and things like that during her period, I guess, as a secretary of that. And she basically, what happened was that these students, these former student leaders and things like that, even one of them being from the Communist Party, was seen as like a new wave, like some people that weren't associated with the previous regime, even though that many of them were probably indirectly involved with the previous regime, as they're like a second generation, third generation, like the sons, grandsons, granddaughters, and such of the previous like intelligentsia, shall we say?
right.
That right, and also because back in 2005, even the right wing kind of like try to use like this period of like unrest in order to destabilize also. So there's always like this thing of like it's like as you see with the anarcho-capitalist libertarian callers, it's like it's always like the state, like this like distrust of the state. So it can be easily seen from the left as like from anarchists or extreme like left wing as I guess some people, and I would like to talk to them as well, the Marxist Leninists, Ryan Marxist Leninists or something like that. that it's seen like as something structured from the top down, or um, or it could be seen on the right as like no, these politicians are corrupt because we're doing the corrupting, and actually we should trust like business owners, business managers, because at least they are controlled by the market, or by their profit margins, or what have you. So that's how
Right.
they. So this whole process that was like culminated like in 2016, because as we saw with Montserrat, Pinheiro was completely like blatantly like not like talking to the people, not understanding like in many ways I think he was like manipulating the market, and by manipulating public opinion in order to, so he was kind of like trolling in order to see, so because of course if there's like a huge like a backlash and there's like a protest and unrest that would affect the markets in Chile, and he could operate between that. That's kind of his usual thing of like doing like backdoor, like underhanded trading, inside trading. And we got Boric, who's from the deep south. He's a son of Croatian immigrants, and the deep south is usually kind of like seen as like an autonomous zone due to its how further away, and actually like it's responsible for like a lot of like workers movement, both from the same working against the same reactionary forces that were involved with genocides against the Native Americans, and also they had like an infamous protest against Pinochet, where they actually shoved him, I mean, booed him out of the city in Punta Arenas, which is very deep in the deep south of Chile.
Now
And of
let's.
course,
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I keep
there's Camila
thinking.
Vallejos that I was going to say had like a punk rock scene. She was like sort of like the darling for 15 minutes, I suppose. Now she's just the spokesperson, but they didn't change her when they changed like the current cabinet.
Right, they just did that. What was it today? Right,
Right, right.
which is the September 6th. Right. All right. So let's again, before we get a little bit too ahead of ourselves. So where did this come up from? Like what made President I'm sorry, how do you pronounce his name again? I want to make sure I say it right.
It's kind of like Maury Povich. It's Boric.
Oh, okay. So so President Boric, he becomes the yeah, I'm not so great at it, but I'm trying. He
No,
becomes,
it's good. Yeah,
he becomes president thanks to this sort of left wing uprising in the country, and
yeah.
um,
That's the problem. He kind of like inserted himself into the movement, but he was never seen as part of the movement, because at the same time he was kind of like somewhat behind in the process. I mean, these were very like moderate people in comparison to what the aims of the people wanted, and especially in the constitutional process. In fact, he called against violence of the protest, against the violence of the protests, and actually was got spit and thrown like the usual thing, like the rotten tomatoes and apples and spat on and all things, and when people found him on the street.
so would you say like he became sort of or was always sort of a more general sort of liberal, maybe progressive, that sort of took the opportunity to become the figure that he did,
Yeah,
and he
I
wasn't
think the group
really.
behind him. Yeah, I think the group behind him, since they were seeing themselves as the Young Turks of the process, tried to like get some of that like anarcho-communist, anarchists, or anarcho-syndicalists, and anyone that was like disenchanted from the entire process tried to get some of that energy, of course.
Now, so he becomes was no, he wins, and how was
Well, he wins
decisive.
because also he ran against like a communist leader who's a mayor, and basically
Wait,
what
what is
happened
that?
was
Hold on, hold
that
on,
the
I'm sorry.
right.
There's some weird audio on your end.
Testing
There we
one
go.
two three.
Were you
Right.
tapping the mic?
I was
Because
fidgeting, shall we say.
okay, all right, that was the audio quality was good until that moment, but it's fixed now. So
Right.
go. I'm sorry. So who did he run against, and how decisive was his victory? And when
Well,
was this again?
basically,
This was just a few years ago, right? This was
right. It was like right. It was like 2019, like in the middle of the primary on the left. So basically, what happened was that there was like a kind of like a campaign like against like the moderation, because of course all the fear mongering, of course, being of Palestinian origin, some of the Jewish population said that he was like too extremist against Israel. They used like all sorts of things. Of course, like in interviews, he'd say things that would scare some people about regarding taxation, regarding like land reform and all sorts of things that kind of like scare people, and of course
but it
abortion and
didn't
all sorts
work,
of.
obviously, because he won. How decisive was that victory?
Well, I was saying that also probably because it was an open primary, that a lot of people from the right also like voted against the communist candidate and helped Boric acquire victory, and then later on that factored into his victory.
But what about in
Basically,
the general? How decisive was his victory? Like among the general population?
basically because he was running up against an extreme right Nazi that you could see. It was like he's seen in a photo kind of like with the guy that wrote the Constitution, who was very on the right. And this candidate is tied historically to his father with torture against communists and and union organizers. That
And we just went through, like a decade of, people pushing back on the right wing
No, of course,
government.
but of course
Yeah.
he he used in this process like a lot of like fascist like Bolsonaro, like a lot of fascist like populist talking points, like trying to say like trying to separate the people regarding immigration and things like that. There's like a sort of like a kind of thing that, along with the Native Americans, it's a kind of like a soft spot for the. I mean, it's kind of like a weak spot for the left regarding immigration, whether it's at the same time you want to protect human rights and the right to immigrate and things like that. Many of the immigrants, like from Venezuela, are found on the extreme right wing, for instance, or
Now,
basically like a more anti-left bias, shall we say?
ah, so let's now get to this new constitution. Now, you already gave us a few things
Right.
about it,
I can read it.
but
I can give you like because actually like a lot of like the
well,
I don't blame I
what's something that, I mean, first, I guess let's talk about this. So the voters in Chile voted, rejected this new constitution, which, like we talked about earlier, was kind of
yeah
surprising.
I'm
The thought
yeah
process was,
yeah I'm kind of suspicious of the entire process
all right. Well,
because
first,
it doesn't correlate with the history of it, at least
let's
from a
get
Marxist point of view.
let's get to that in a second. But first, let's deal with what we know so far, and then we
Right.
could get into
It's
some of
kind
the
of like
things that.
a three-fourths vote against, and it's usually like the left kind of loses like kind of like a barely tied like about by 100,000 votes or something like that usually.
Right. So let me ask you this. So this is a constitution from the days of Pinochet, and interesting. And you had sent this to me. There was this Washington Post article
Right.
that came out just a week ago from the Washington Post editorial board.
Right.
Chile should send its proposed constitution back for a rewrite. Now,
Right.
if you open up that article and you get reading, now I'm not gonna we're not gonna read the whole.
You
It's
saw
short, but
what the focus of the first paragraph, right?
literally the opening paragraph and the opinion from the Washington Post editorial board about Chile should send its constitution, the proposed constitution, back for a rewrite. The opening paragraph, I'll read it verbatim. This is exactly what it says. I'll just read the first couple of sentences because it's really all you need to know. Lithium is a key input in batteries that run millions of laptops and upon which the United States is basing its electrified automotive future. Chile sits atop the world's largest lithium reserves. It produced about 25% of the world's commercial supply in 2020. That's reason enough to pay attention to Chile's impending September 4th referendum on a proposed new constitution. It could recast the legal framework for mining in the South American nation, which has an 18-year-old free trade agreement with the United States. I mean, come on. This is the opening from the Washington Post
Yeah,
editorial board.
salvo, shall we say?
Yeah, this is to them why Chile should send their constitution that was voted on this past weekend back for a rewrite,
It kind of
because of
sounds
how
like
it could affect the United States.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Bolivia, right? Um, yeah, basically the precedent for that is like during Allende, the copper company, and my father worked for like an American copper company that called Braden Copper Company, that was in Rancagua, in the Sewell mountainous region, where they had like their own American city, practically American town there. That got lost and got nationalized by Allende, and of course the United States, and that of course precipitated the coup d'état and all that. So that's in the back of a head of everyone, how people can like lose that market, shall we say, especially in these times. But on the other hand, and you can pick up this, I showed you the photograph of the bomb villain, the guy that was like being interviewed. He's kind of like a silver fox, shall we say?
Hmm. Where is this guy? Oh, yes, I see him.
Yeah, he was the son of
here's
Pinochet.
I'll pull it up, and here's what Renee gave me when he sent the pic. The so-called Lithium King. Here he is. What's his name?
Ponce Lerou.
He the supervillain with the largest amount of holdings in lithium, who rose to fortune after the 1973 coup, having married one of Pinochet's daughters. I wonder how he became
Through,
the
through
Lithium
direct
King.
privatization of public holdings, public works, public enterprises.
Right. I wonder
like
if
telephone,
you think marrying
electricity, such.
Pinochet's daughter had anything to do with that?
I mean, who gave him that, shall we say, playground to
Right.
begin with?
All right.
I mean, look at him. He's like, yeah,
Bond villain. Yeah, I think you got that down right.
right. And basically, and he's like kind of like laughing at the country at the same time. He's like derisive. Yeah, basically, there's that. He was like involved also with the private pensions, and he was the guy that scammed like money out of the pensions, and kind of like corrupted the political class and all sorts of things. But he's the major holder, so it's not like Bolivia, where there's like where you have to like directly have to involve yourself with the government in order to have access to lithium. It's with this guy, and of course he's going to be factor in. He's not going to be easily swayed by Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to be like a minor, a junior partner at the most for a guy like this, who's like used to running his fiefdom. And at the same time, what they were really, I mean, one of the things that's mentioned in the article is regarding it wasn't because there was this whole thing about like it's a public assembly, it's democratically elected, it's by agreement. So instead of like agreeing on nationalizing, as in the past, the national resources, what they did was they included like something about regarding protecting the environment and not causing a health crisis as there's precedent in Chile regarding oil spills or machinery or radiation, what have you, or in refineries, like contaminating the water and the environment with spills and excess, even in paper companies and things like that.
Now, hold on, I'm reading through
And
some of this stuff that you
and
sent
of
me.
course that's too much. And of course, that's too much regulation for the open market, especially for people that actually want like a practically fracking outright, like or direct access to land outright within a precious resource as lithium is.
Right. I mean, so what exactly did, like, what was Washington Post worry here? What exactly did this new constitution mean for lithium mining, for example?
Well, for instance, it starts like
Oh, you have
I have the Constitution with me.
is that the new one or the current one?
This is the new one.
The one that was
It's just to
rejected.
see how,
Yes.
and also how that it's not. I mean, I'm translating it, and it doesn't read like an instruction manual, shall we say?
All right.
So,
So go ahead on that topic. Go ahead.
right, um, the first two articles, okay? So we can get an idea, and I can jump to the third article. Chile is a social state that's democratic by right, by law. It's plurinational, intercultural, regional, and ecological. That means it's not just that the center region of the capital rules it all. It's practically in all but name federalized. It's constructed or constituted as a solidarity-minded republic. So we each help each other and all that. Its democracy is inclusive and egalitarian. It recognizes as intrinsical and unrevocable values or rights, dignity, which was an important thing. I mean, the kind of Chaz autonomous zone was called like Plaza Dignidad. Liberty, substantive equality of human beings and their indissoluble relationship with nature. So immediately there's that idea of like of ecology and nature, and how mankind should be, as I was saying regarding how the Mapuche see their cosmovision, that mankind can't be separate from nature, as like Judeo-Christianity kind of like promotes that God gave the earth and everything in it for sustenance and development. Article 3, Chile and its geographical, diverse, natural again, historical and cultural diversity forms a unique and indivisible territory. And then and Article 5, Section 2 talks about like the First Nations and things like that being recognized. So as you can see, that's kind of like a line drawing in the sand regarding exploitation of mining and such.
Right. Now, what are some of these other parts of this new constitution that what were the parts that caused concern in Chile more so? Like I'm sure they weren't, the number one issue for Chileans wasn't that the U.S.'s relationship with the lithium mining. I mean, maybe they were concerned over the U.S.'s relationship with Chile overall as a result of the Constitution.
Lithium, copper.
Right.
The
was this the driving concern though, or were there other things in it that?
I mean, there's a lot of things. As I was saying, I suspect like a lot of foul play, but basically
we'll get to the foul play in a minute. But
right,
I'm talking about like in the media there. What was Chileans media, Chile's media? What was their version of that Washington Post op-ed? Like, what were the issues that they were pushing on the people in hopes of a rejection?
I guess like communism and leftism being very like lenient on crime. Communism being like against like private property, because nobody understands what personal property is here in Chile. And I wouldn't agree with people, like with my friends and people that might be like on my side might think about like the Chileans being ignorant, but there still was like a sort of like a kind of like a drive to keep people ignorant in regards of information as crucial as what is personal property versus private property. And
So that was
uh,
because you brought that one up a lot here, and based on the how this was all
right,
defined in the current constitution from from the
right.
Pinochets.
If you
Um,
own a house, but you still have to pay like the dividends, the mortgage, and things to the bank, do you really own it if they can kick you out? But people don't see it that way. They see it as their kingdom, and big bad government is going to take them away because they're going to send them into section housing, even though that's guaranteed to as a right to people that might not have access to housing or might want like a lower interest rate or things like that in order to have access to housing.
right.
This might be very sensitive to in New York where the prices are like skyrocketing constantly, and there's like the homeless and all that. Um, there's also like the idea of like taxation, of course, like as was promoted in the Reagan years. I mean, basically the idea was to reform taxation and depending on earnings and an amount of like land owned or property owned. Um, and and basically what would entail these taxes? What would it finance? Would it be education, health, and access to health and education, as it is in the rest of South America? It's basically we're the exception along with the United States, shall we say,
Right.
on the two
And
continents.
so what was we talked about early on. I mentioned how when it came time to vote this weekend, there was a belief that it would be close and maybe even a stronger hope that the new constitution would win. But the rejection was seems pretty stark in terms. I think it was like something like 60 something percent to 30 something percent, right?
Exactly. That's why I was saying like three-fourths versus a fourth or something like that.
Now
Um,
let's get into this now because I know I could tell throughout the whole. I really made you work for it to get to this point because I know you've been wanting to talk about this, but I really thought it was
I
important to get that
mean,
sort of
we had to
background.
talk to the rest about it. It's just it ties into everything.
Exactly, and we needed to get that up front for people who don't understand here. And also, we didn't really even. I mean, I know you dropped a reference here and there, but we didn't even talk all that much about like the U.S.'s role in ousting Allende, who was replaced by Pinochet,
Right,
and obviously the a little bit here and there, especially with
right,
the U.S. interest, but
right.
there's so much at play here, and I think that Washington
Well,
Post.
there were companies involved in Chile directly. There was like the ITT, that was actually a CIA front, and there was, as I was saying, like my father worked for the Braden Copper Company. Of course, there was like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Um, it was kind of weird because at the same time, of course, like this whole project of Allende and all that, also kind of like you had like an interview, or it was Michael that had an interview with an American that was like kind of like seduced and came to Chile
Hold on,
with the
I also got, not to interrupt you, but I also have to mention another name as I look at it. I forget that you don't pronounce the L's the way I just did in
oh
Spanish.
Allende, right? What I
Allende,
mean,
yes. I'm really all that Spanish. I mean,
no,
I'm
it's
literally
I
half
understand.
my
I
family.
completely understand. It gets worse in Quechua. It gets worse probably in Peruvian.
Half my family is Peruvian. Yeah, I
Ayacucho
can't
and all that.
even.
That
Yeah,
must drive you crazy,
I'm
right?
really shaming everybody tonight with my pronunciations.
By the
But go
way, if you want,
ahead.
since we're talking a lot, if you want to share and partake in a cola with me,
Oh,
I brought
what do you
some
got
Guarana.
there? Oh,
It's
which one?
Guarana cola.
I'm
It's
not
from
familiar with that
Brazil, from
one.
the Amazon.
Oh, okay, Brazil. Okay.
It's a root that's high in caffeine,
Ah, ooh, I might have
so
to
it's
check that one
natural,
out.
but
I'm gonna have to check that
right.
soda out.
It's like there's like kind of like energy drinks that also features like this root as well. So whatever you're having, you can partake in. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm just
Salud.
having a Coke.
Okay.
Uh,
I'll open it myself
what's
then.
the big what's the big? This is really off topic. What's the big Chilean soda? I know Peru's got Inca Cola, which is delicious. What is?
Right.
I feel like every South American country has their own major soda.
Suspiciously, we have like Fanta to be a bit more
Hmm.
like the Nazi influence. Um, There's also there's like a national thing that's kind of called like Billsy Pop. It's kind of like pop is from allegedly papaya, some um, kind of like a approximation, synthetic approximation to papaya, and it's and there's campina, I guess that's what made out of pineapple. But people only usually drink like Coca-Cola, usually
All right.
7 Up.
I mean, it's Coca-Cola is everywhere, but you know how like,
Yeah,
Colombia
yeah,
has the that drink. What I mean, it's can't forget it because it's right in the name. The Colombiana, that red
right.
soda, and then Peru, like I mentioned,
This
Inca
is
Cola. I think
kind of
Ecuador's got
niche,
like Tropical. Yeah,
right? This is kind of niche.
I have
So
to check
salute,
that one out. There we go.
right? So
Enough about sodas, though. Although maybe I should. My next podcast should be a soda podcast. But let's talk. Let's
right.
talk.
I can also
Let's.
talk about Chilean wrestling as well, but yeah, okay. So basically, yeah, I mean, pull up photographs of the two meetings. Like there's like the campaign or rally for the Constitution, and then you can see like a celebration of the
Oh
there's
right,
like
you sent. Oh
just
yeah, let me
the
get
three
those photos
photographs.
up. Yep, those were good ones. Not good in terms of what they depict, but very telling photographs.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand that. As a journalist, I understand. Well, we both
okay,
studied media, so
right. So
we didn't actually.
here is 2 days before the election. So this would be September 2nd
Right.
in downtown Santiago. This is a very big crowd, and we're not going to be like Trump and pretend that a big crowd means you're going to win.
No,
But
it's 500, but it was 500,000. Trump was like sort of like the other
like,
side celebrating afterwards.
yeah, this is a lot of people. And this is before the vote, so this is a rally to get people
Right.
out to vote. I'm assuming. And
Right.
then here is a
Well, basically
celebration.
showing their support. Basically, what kind of promotion you can do there,
And
but
here's
basically showing support.
and here's the celebration. I just lost everything. Where is it? I just had it. Oh, here. Okay, here is the celebration going
Yeah,
on
there's like three photos in one. It's a kind of
after.
like triptych chat.
Now, is this vote sort of going along the same lines so far? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of breakdown that still needs to be done of the vote and where it comes from and who voted what. The
Right. I
exit
mean,
polls. But is this
I
going to
can
be
do a
like?
very basic breakdown if you
Let me
want
guess. It's going to
later.
be a little bit like how it was in Bolivia for Morales, and then for the current president, who is also from Morales' party after the coup, where it breaks down pretty much to. People who weren't native Bolivians in the big cities voted for the right wing parties, and all of the indigenous people and in the rural areas, almost like the opposite of what happens here in the U.S. All those people vote for the left wing parties.
No, this was crazy. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
It's
okay,
completely crazy
all right. Let's hear this.
because allegedly they were more manipulated in the areas further away from the capital, and even they were suffering problems of water shortages, and supposedly they had like higher votes and things like that because allegedly they had like the landowners, the main like bigwigs and things like that, kind of like had a stranglehold in regards to that because they affected so much their economic power, especially based on pensions, based on mining, based on agriculture, and all sorts of things. So yeah, as you can see, as you can see, Chad, with the both photographs, the second photograph is like of the celebration of the victory of against the new constitution, rejecting the constitution, and that's like a very small crowd. So
Again, though,
comparing
we shouldn't compare the crowd sizes and stuff because
no,
we all
because
know how that
usually,
could
I
go.
mean, within the context, I mean, even when there's like a victory of the national sports team or something like that, people go crazy and take to the streets, and you can see that crowd as well as you see it with the revolt and things like that. I mean, this is very, 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 very tiny for a victory crowd. Um, yeah. Regards to that, there's also like as I was saying, the historical process and processes of entire like a movement that what brought us here. That was like from the student protests to finally in 2018 in order to bring upon this whole constitutional process and all that, when people took to the streets and people like both electing undergoing this constitutional process as well as voting in for Boric in order to get away from what represented like going back to the past with this Nazi affiliated candidate. And basically, yeah, I mean, if you want to go to observers and things I mean, what's happening now is like the left is eating itself, like blaming each other, blaming the government, saying that it wasn't, that the Constitution, as I read it, it doesn't read like an instruction manual, was badly written. It wasn't promoted enough. Whereas the government was put in an awkward position that it couldn't promote directly the Constitution, but it could give information about it, as it was said in I think in that previous what I was referring to last week about that interview done with the women from Cambridge, in the School of Economics from Cambridge, that kind of like explained how it was in Colombia regarding the disarmament of the FARC and all that. And basically, what happened was that what people on the ground are saying is that basically what constituted as a large division was in regards to the youth, that the youth mainly and students, what you see that normally popped off, and I can, to a certain degree, I can kind of like understand that because they kind of like started the main revolts and kind of like led the push towards going against the establishment and promoting like an independent kind of like from the people, like this kind of like direct democracy. And saying that basically you can see a great divide between the usual case between people of older generations, boomers or what have you, Gen Zers versus like the newer generations and things like that. And to a certain degree, if they lower like the voting age to 16, they might like get more like more votes for the left and all that. But that's
right.
like
So this breakdown of the Constitution vote sort of looked more like, how I guess you can say elections look like here in the U.S., where it's a generational divide.
right. I mean, and that's the narrative that's being forced. What's being forced now in the wake of this is like trying to separate the left and trying to separate like people in general. And there's the usual intelligentsia saying, no, that people are stupid or people are ignorant, that they vote against their own interests and things like that, sort of like Brexit and all that. But there's like
Right.
included in the midst of this is like this very like hokey. Usually, as you were saying yourself, it's usually neck to neck when there's a loss, like with Piñera and all that.
Now, let's talk a little bit. Now we're sort of running out of time. We really got into
All right.
the
Well,
weeds here,
I'd
but
really like to
let's.
answer like questions from the chat and like
Oh,
calls
maybe
or anything
you
like
can
that.
stick
So,
around for the second half then. But first, let's actually do this. Let's get into those. You believe there was something nefarious afoot, and that there was
right.
something more going on here. It's hard to speculate based on what we know now, but we do.
I sent a photograph of like what I was referring to
Right, but we
the
can get into these guys. Yes, there are right wing figures and influencers in Chile who were part of this campaign to get people to reject the Constitution.
right, and one of them is involved like one of them is involved, and you see in the photograph like is seated next to the person in charge of the elections of the like the electoral committee.
What is
we
his
call
name?
Arturo Tagle
Is
or
this
Andres Tagle.
is this the one with the newspaper headline?
I think so. Yeah,
Presidente del
it was from
Cervel.
a webpage.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Yeah, there's also Juan Malo, I think is his nickname.
Oh yes, Pancho Malo.
Pancho Malo, yeah, that's it.
So let me
Yeah,
pull this guy up on the.
he's a head of a nationalist, extreme, fascist um, uh, super PAC that was kind of like trying to promote influence the vote, and it was kind of seeing this as like a kind of like a war between civilizations and kind of like a rescuing Chile, and the idea that plurinationality was going against the idea of like one nation, like what Hitler would say, like one Volk, ein Volk, ein
This is this.
Nation.
Is this the same guy? This is the same guy I think in this other photo you sent. Of you describe him as a former football hooligan and
Right.
spokesperson of a far right pack called Team Patriot.
Yeah. Those are tied to what they call themselves as the Republican Party. That's kind of like the new far right that's being it's kind of like I guess like for the Star Wars fans, like in regards to Pinochet, they would be kind of like New Order, shall we say?
Oh, okay.
Um,
So they're trying to
Basically,
bring. I mean, not literally, but trying to bring the era of they're trying to bring Pinochet back.
exactly.
Are these the same type of guys who
They have ties
are
with the
they are
United
they
States. They
are
have
they
ties with the with
oh, yeah, are they the ones who got those shirts with the pushing
helicopters,
leftists out of helicopters? Yeah.
but oddly enough, they were like kind of like it was very minuscule in comparison to the United States. Like they traveled to the United States and they promoted, and I guess that there was like some kind of like synchronicity. I guess Enrique Tarrio could have been like involved as well as like a kind of middleman as well to those that. And there was also the case of John Carbon, who was like a far right ideologue from the United States that was living in Chile and was trying to be an economics professor of kind of like fringe Friedmanian libertarian economics, calling it free market economics and all that. But he was later divested from his post because it was basically it was even more voodoo economics than what we promote here in Chile.
And who's this guy? You sent the photo of him, right wing influencer and former tennis star
Right.
Marcelo Rios, who you
Right.
described as someone who usually surfaces to try to swing an election here.
Right. He's an interesting figure because when he during his heyday when he was like winning the Grand Slams and things like that. That's his photograph in the account where he says that of course people don't let him have his own opinion. He does like the usual whining like Tim Pool says because basically everything he's any money that he's done he's tried to speak in favor of like people entrepreneurs and people like that pull themselves up from their bootstraps, um, self-made millionaires and all that because he's had to fight in order to be on top, to be rich and all that, and of course the leftists want to take it from him. Basically, he started at a point where his father could get him like private tennis lessons and send him to Miami and stuff like that. I mean, and then afterwards, of course, he invested in both in Panama and Costa Rica, and had like a lot of businesses tied, and he also had like offshore accounts and all sorts of things. And to make things even more weirder, I mean, he finally married a woman who's well, basically his mother-in-law used to be an informant in the Pinochet secret police. Now, there's rumors saying that his wife actually, her father, uh, with her mother out of wedlock, um, giving birth to her and all, he was actually a CIA hitman involved in wet works here in Chile and involved in torture. An American, or could be Croatian, but under an American name called Michael Townley. And to refer to video games, they use his name later on in GTA. So you can see how insidious it is. Like with culture and stuff like that, that they use like a name of a fictional character in order to later on, if somebody mentions like this man Michael Townley, people would associate him with a video game and say, "What? You're a conspiracy theorist. You're full of shit. What are you talking about? This guy doesn't exist."
Hmm. So do you think what do you think happened here? Do you think that these right wing influencers were just? I'm assuming they were well backed with moneyed
All right,
interests.
show the guy with the beard as well.
Oh, okay. Let me get this guy. Um, there, you sent quite a library of
You're right.
everyone should bring visuals
He's
here.
yeah, literary. He's a literary critic. I said.
Oh, okay. So this is literary journalist. Here we
Right.
go. Christian. Excuse me.
Warken or
Christian
Varkin.
Erken, who campaigned
Right.
against the Constitution, saying that it was based on confrontation, that it was
Right.
better, as the Washington Post said, so it could be rewritten to appeal to moderates and the right wing. You classify him as the Tim Pool character. He's a declared fan and has done literary TV programs on Ezra
Ezra
Pound
Pound.
and Chilean esoteric Hitlerian Miguel Serrano.
Right. Basically, he reached prominence because he was kind of like a literary figure that kind of like promoted like poetry and culture in Chile. And when I say culture, I mean like the arts, like literary painting, philosophy, and such. And he had like television programs, and they were kind of like interesting. And and he was kind of like a sort of like a free thinker, like a kind of like on the wave of like the return to democracy and all that. So he used all of that like bona fides in order to promote himself as like a rational moderate, shall we say, like being somebody once again on the fence allegedly. And he kind of like said like this whole like constitution without even reading it. He said it was like invalid because it was on the wave of like violence and from the last student revolt, shall we say, back in 2019.
And who is this
So they
figure?
so wait a minute. So
Yeah, go ahead.
he was trying to like promote the idea that okay, we reject the Constitution, as I think it was being said in Left Reckoning, reject the Constitution in order to reform it later on. To reject with love was the term.
To
He was
reject with
basically
love.
trying to do a kind of like what they did in Brexit. That actually okay, we'll use the money instead. We'll use the money instead of going to Europe. We'll use it in the NHS, like the kind of campaign they have, like on the side of buses, basically bullshitting the people. So, because even now today, the right wing doesn't want to meet up with the government, the current government, and um, basically is running interference, and basically probably wants to delay the entire process and wants to keep the status quo as it is.
So what's next here? Like I know you had mentioned that there was basically a shakeup in the president's cabinet due to these results. Are we looking at a push more to the center or the right for the current
I think
administration?
I think the current administration will try to like do like a damage control, trying to try to be even more modern, try to like it's the usual song and dance. They'll try to be moderate, but at the same time, the right won't agree with it, and it'll try to like force them into a corner and like and actively like be aggressive towards them and filibustering and all the whole things, just like in the United States. Just perhaps with even more aggression and things like that. I mean, 3 days before the election, the president's brother was attacked on the streets outright, and this tennis figure blatantly said like he was like criticizing the victim, shall we say, the president's brother for being too violent because he responded, he tried to defend himself from this attack. That he couldn't do it since he was like the president's brother. That he should have like a bit more like I guess decorum or something like that. Yeah, basically, I think it's going to be. There's also the fact that how do you with if you're talking to like an autonomous independent movement from the Native Americans down south, it's kind of like a circle. It's like a vicious circle that they won't believe it. What can they believe if this like a push towards like recognizing them as valid actors in this concept of plurinationalism, sort of like shall we say like sort of like Standing Rock but writ large, that how can they believe like this process has any validity if it gets like so repressed or so pushed down or so rejected by the general populace like this? How can they get the idea that we're just ghosts, that we're just subjugated by consumerism and we don't have a soul anymore? So that, and within how's the current government going to react towards confrontation, armed confrontation, with these factions against the militarized police, being that they're from the government itself? Or what did they do? At the same time, of course, the right is going to say they're too lenient, they're not doing enough, and it's a dog chasing its tail. Finally, it's a Ouroboros.
Right. Well, Renee, this has been extremely fascinating, and when you told me about this last week, it was extremely interesting. But I guess I wasn't upholding the doomed ethos of everything will always be bad all the time, and I was looking a little bit,
Kind of like my song. Maybe I started this with the song. Maybe it was kind of
yes,
like
and for people who don't know, Renee has created a song for Doomed, and I think it is the perfect theme music to use for going into the second half of the show. It really has perfect vibes.
So I have to remove like the introduction section like today on Doomed and all that.
It still works, I'm sure. But I listened to it. I think it's great, and we'll play it here for the second half here, going into the second half, and we'll let people let me know how they feel, and maybe I'll get a better taste seeing how it feels during the live stream, not just listening to it after.
Right.
Renee Moncayo, everybody. Renee, where can people find you online? You want to drop a Twitter account, anything? Let people know where they could.
Well, first of all, of course, you can find me on chat. So hello, everybody. Thank you having you here. I'll take your questions either on here or within the chat. Also, I'm usually found as with my last name, R Moncayo R on Instagram. I'm also found as René Moncayo on YouTube. I'm also found on Facebook, like a lot of boomers. Also with my name, René Moncayo. I'm also like within Discord and stuff like that. People can find me. I mean, I think Emmy Martian found me. I joined her own Discord that she runs, like a very interesting like cultural show, like regarding bizarro science fiction and other kind of like fringe cinema. And
sounds good.
Yeah, and there's also my SoundCloud for my music projects as Rebel Destruction. So be sure to listen.
Everyone, be sure to check out Renee online at any of those various platforms.
And Thomas Jerome on Twitter.
Oh, right. I added you. What is it again for people who want to find you on Twitter?
Right, it's like Thomas Jerome Newton, but I couldn't write the whole thing, so Thomas Jerome New.
There we go. All right, Renee, thanks for taking the time to break this down for us. Live in Chile, do you think there's to let us go here, not to get into a whole nother, we could definitely talk about this for another hour and a half, but
right.
One sentence here. What are your, you already gave us a little bit about where you think things are headed, but what?
Well, of course. I mean, I'm kind of like a tanky, so I mean, the only like resource is like revolution. It's just keeping on the streets and like promoting keeping on fighting and stuff like that. And it's If they're going to like taint the democratic process like that, we can't expect to any like a dialogue or conversation with the far right, either
There we
here in
go.
Chile or in the United States,
All
as I've
right,
always said.
all right, Renee. Always a pleasure.
Otherwise, we're doomed.
Ooh, perfect, perfect mention of the show's name. You know, I always get a kick out of when a guest says it. Have a great night, Renee. Oh, he even hung up perfectly. Didn't even want to stick around to let the word. Oh, that was great, actually. Renee, thank you so much. All right, folks, we're going to go to the second half of the show. We went long, but there was so much to talk about, and I feel like we still could have talked about it more. But let let me really quickly tell you where we're at in terms of supporting this show, because first of the month is always hard, but I think September, I guess maybe with end of summer, people going back to school, maybe a change of jobs or work or whatever. We've had quite a few people who canceled or had their cards declined, and when Patreon went back to try it again, it still didn't work. Um, so if you can support this show and I almost said keep it from growing. No, keep it growing. Go to patreon.com/mattbinder. This happens every now and then where there's month after month of growth, and then there's just one month that sort of makes me feel like, oh my God, what's going on here? And that's this month. But we'll see. We'll see. We were maybe like a little bit less than 24 patrons away from 400 patrons, and now we're quite more quite further away from that even. But patreon.com/mattbinder if you can. And I got to thank the people who helped keep us from reverting back to the bad old days and keep us growing. Those people who joined over the past week. And those wonderful individuals are Cheryl A., Matt G., Targo, and Ed B. Thank you so much, you guys, for becoming patrons and helping this show grow. That's patreon.com/mattbinder. As always, if you're watching the YouTube live stream, you could drop a super chat. I will read all super chats. Any question you got, make it a super chat or a super sticker. Also, if you're watching the replay, you can drop a super thanks, which is like the YouTube comments version of a super chat, which is obviously in the live chat. You can also support this show by going to twitch.tv. Oh, did I tell you where it's youtube.com/mattbinder, right? And then over on Twitch, twitch.tv/mattbinder. I see where see there's a pattern here. Connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and you get a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. That is literally a paid Twitch subscription, not paid for you. It comes free with your Amazon Prime subscription, but it is paid to whomever, whichever creator you give that subscription to. So it's basically like you're forcing Amazon to share a cut of your Amazon Prime subscription with a Twitch creator. If you do that, you should. If you don't do that, I should say, you should, because you get one every month free with your Amazon Prime subscription. I'm telling you this because I hope you give it to me. But even if you don't, give it to some Twitch creator that you enjoy, because otherwise you just let an Amazon keep a bigger cut of your Prime subscription. Makes no sense. Share the wealth. Share the money. Force Amazon to share that money. And want to thank the people who do that over on Twitch at twitch.tv/mattbinder. Jersey Thompson subscribed with Prime just a few hours ago. Rebel Without a Cause resubscribed with Prime, a subscriber for 9 months. Whoa, thank you, Rebel Without a Cause. Philbo Schwaggins resubscribed with Prime. They've been a subscriber for 5 months. Left is best, they say. Serious Business resubscribed at Tier 1, which means they're actually paying for their Twitch subscription. Subscriber for 10 months. Woo, says Series Business. Thank you so much. 10 months in a row. Amused Mob, resubscribed at Prime. Subscriber for 6 months. They also said, this is from a couple days ago, but I want to make sure I drop this here. It's my 6-month subscription anniversary, and my sister-in-law is going into labor. I'm going to be an uncle. Woo. Congratulations, Amused Mob. And congratulations to your sister-in-law. Tokyo Hans, resubscriber Prime, 4-month subscriber. And Disco Lemur, subscribe with Prime. Thank you so much. All right, folks. We're going to go to the second half of the show. Be sure to check out Scam Economy, my crypto critical podcast. New episode on Thursday. We'll be at youtube.com/MattBinder and at scameconomy.com. Check out the podcast version of this show at doomedcast.com. What else? Follow me on Twitter at MattBinder. And let's go to the second half of the show. And to bring us to the second half of the show, we are going to play that song Renee created for Doomed. So just give me a minute or two here, not even, more like 30 seconds here to refill my soda, get my bearings together here. And if you are a Patreon subscriber or you're sticking around in the live stream, stick around. You can. Not going anywhere for you. If you're listening to the freebie version of the podcast of Doomed, then this is where we say adieu. Sorry if I messed that up, Zoe. I'm trying my best with the accents and pronunciations today, regardless of whether I'm speaking Spanish or French. All right. I will see you all next time on Doomed. Today on Doomed.
Ecological collapse, corporate fascism, corporate journalism, police brutality, voter suppression, austerity economics, education masses, rampant homophobia,
We got our first caller.
What's up, Matt?
Hey,
You from Jamaica?
Dave from Jamaica. How are you doing, my friend? What are we going to be talking about today?
I don't think you are exactly what you claim you are. I would say you're a conservative. What makes you a liberal? I'm pro-Green New Deal. Are you? Yes, really? Absolutely. I have watched the show. I've seen you completely come out and get really mad at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for some of the things in the Green New Deal.
You mean like free college for black people?
All right, we are back. This is Doomed with Matt Binder, the second half of the show, where I take your calls. Just open up Skype, search Doomed Live, and you can call into the show. And you're listening to what I think is the new, going into the second half theme song From Renee, thank you so much. I think it works perfectly as a intro, an outro to the main show, an intro to the second half of the show. Um, and let's get right into it. We already got callers calling in. Uh, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, this is Tokyo Hans. Please go ahead and put me up.
Hey, Tokyo Hans. What a pleasure to see you and hear from you. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing very well. I just finished a wonderful lunch.
Oh, right. You know I like those time zones.
Yes, yes, yes.
I I'm like my son actually, who is entering second grade, getting a kick out of things like that. That's actually why I started a little bit late because he's starting to. I could tell he's starting to get nervous about school starting this week, and I had a feeling he'd have a hard time going to bed tonight. So I wanted to make sure. Usually Tuesday and Thursday night, mom takes them to bed. I felt like I needed to help him out tonight, get to bed. So that's why I started a little bit late. But what's up, Tokyo Hans? What'd you like to talk about?
First, I just wanted to thank Renee. That was just awesome. A great thing he did there. And it was very informative. I felt, being part Latin American myself, I like to hear, things from that certain region. And also that's the intro to the second half of the show was awesome. So Renee, great
Yeah.
job on that.
I know Renee. When he first sent me that song, he was like, "Oh, this could be a new intro, like at the very top." But like honestly, when I first heard it, I thought he made it specifically for the second half because you literally he literally spliced in like callers and me talking to right wingers, and I mean, what better way to get into the second half of the show where I do that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was great. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the continuing saga of the death of Shinzo Abe. We had some big news this morning.
This morning, as in Wednesday
well,
morning.
Yeah, Wednesday morning. I just turned on the morning news, and again, more trouble. So,
folks, news from the future. It's only Tuesday night
exactly.
here. We got some news from Wednesday morning. Let's hear this.
Yeah, so basically, like they're still going forward with the state funeral and everything. I know Dave from Jamaica had a little interest in it last week, so I decided to call in today. And well, the government approved a budget of $1.8 million for the whole thing, right? And that sounds kind of reasonable for a state funeral, like $1.8 million. And then all of a sudden on the news this morning, it said that the party in power, upped it to $11.8 million. So it went up 6.5 times from the original estimation. So basically, what happened was the opposition parties, they were like, you have to be more transparent with the money and stuff. So please, let us know what's going on. Why is it costing so much money? And we approved the $1.8 million. Why is there like an extra $10 million to this? And basically, that's just the prime minister now, Kishida. He had to give like a speech like late last night or early this morning, and had to give excuses like he had to pay for like $5.7 million to cover the cost for the personnel and expenses and everything. He had and also for the security and whatnot. And also another $4.2 million for, like all the incoming dignitaries, because like 190 dignitaries from outside of the country are coming to visit for this whole thing and everything.
Is Biden
and another
going?
70,000. I don't know. This is just fresh news, so like it's coming. It's only within the last hour or two that it's come out, so I don't know any like fine details and everything.
All right.
So it's it's insane. So it's costing like way more than what they first, quoted and were approved for. And yeah, the opposition side is like super, like against this. The public is super against this. Everybody's against this, but like most, right-wing governments, they just don't care. They just go forward with what they want to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give a quick update on what's going on with that.
How is it being covered there? I'm assuming it's a big deal and it's not being taken well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just like I said, it just broke this morning, and news is completely here in Japan compared to like in the States. Think of like the States about 30 years ago before Fox News, when you really just had like the morning news, like the afternoon news and the evening news, and it's over. it's still like that here in Japan, so there's not that much coverage.
Oh, it's not like
But
there's no cable news over there?
yeah, there's no cable news. It's wonderful. I love it.
Really?
So, it's
Wow.
yeah, it's just basically like just like basic like ABC news in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening kind of thing. So it's that's how it goes on. So basically, that's all I really got, and just basically what I get from the internet, like all the I'm trying to translate everything from Japanese. So that's basically it.
Interesting. Thanks
But
for that
basically,
update.
everybody's against it. That's all I can really tell you. But people in power are going to do what people in power do.
Right, right. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, especially after the reaction in the polls that we spoke about last time we spoke, that we talked about last time we spoke, where people in Japan, the majority, didn't even think he should be given this funeral.
Yeah, and basically, and then like he wasn't that popular to begin with, and I mentioned in one of my previous chats, like even after he got killed, he got even less popular, which is very rare
So,
for.
yeah, that's usually you get assassinated as all of a sudden, everything you did is rewritten as if you were a saint. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
This is how it's going down over there. Yeah.
Definitely, he was like the longest running prime minister in history here in Japan. So you would think he would have some popularity, but no. It's just the way the political system works here. It's very similar to the UK system and Australian system. Like the parliamentary styles thing, where he's not directly voted in by the people.
Yeah, I think the older I get and the more I understand how this all works, I'm starting to think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
The U.S. system is lame, especially. I mean, you think, they don't get to pick their president. It's like a whole system where they pick basically which party gets into power based on who gets the most seats, and then those people pick the president or the prime minister or whatever. But it's like, as you really start to understand how American politics work, as you learn more. I mean, this is my feelings from probably like a decade or more ago, but I'm just talking about it now because you brought it up. You understand that the president really has very little power, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, maybe people would actually take Senate and off-year, like non-presidential election year Senate and House races more serious if they knew what the stakes were. And I feel like, a lot of people don't realize those stakes because they're just like, oh, I could just vote for the president, and that's the most important. It's got to be the most powerful position, right?
Yeah. Here, like in Japan, politics is a completely different thing. Nobody talks about politics. You got to think like it's also like a non-religious country. They have like Buddhism and Shintoism and stuff, and very few Christians. So like the only people that really vote in Japan are people over like 50 or 60 or so. So basically, and those people are more like right-wing leaning here. So basically the right-wing, party is just in power for at least the next like 30 or 40 years until the younger generation that's more liberal, grows up. Yeah, like young people don't vote at all. Like, in America, I know you complain about, young people not voting. It's even worse here. Nobody votes here in the younger generations. Nobody talks about politics or anything.
Do you think this whole thing with Abe is going to maybe help wake up the younger people in Japan? I don't want to say wake up. I automatically hate
motivate
saying that.
them. I think
motivate them. Yeah, motivate them because
I don't think so. Yeah.
No, because then who did the blowback come from then about his party's connections with the Unification Church? Was it from older people?
Yeah, it is actually that like I just mentioned. It's a very non-religious country and a very like anti-religious country. So like that being connected to a religious organization got a lot of blowback because of that.
Man, so, I'm picturing the way you said it. I'm picturing, Japan, anti-religious country. Like, if I go visit there,
I don't want to say anti-religious, but very non-religious. I should say.
I was about to say if I go, if I go there and visit Japan, do I like walk through Tokyo and people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, nice to meet you. God is dead. God is dead. God is dead."
Yeah,
that's like saying hello there. God is dead. God
Definitely.
is dead. I'm obviously joking. I didn't think that, but it was funny how you said it. All right, Tokyo Hans, I very much appreciate the call and appreciate the update. It's very I guess. Well, again, when is it? When is this planned for? By the way, when is his state
Ah,
funeral supposed to take
I'm
place?
sorry, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's on September 27th or so,
Okay, about to
but
say
I'm not
you're
exactly sure.
about to say you're really dropping the ball on this, being
So
our
they kept,
correspondent from Japan.
sorry, they keep changing it because it's getting so much pushback, but I believe it's set for September 27th.
Okay, I'll put that in my calendar because I'm going to attend. I'm a big fan of Abe, and I'm planning to fly over to Japan. And I don't know.
Definitely, definitely. He was basically the Pelosi of Japan, so he's well liked.
There you go. Have a great afternoon. Damn, it's already Wednesday afternoon there. I wish it was Wednesday afternoon here.
Yeah, happy
Closer,
I know Emma likes to say it usually, but I'm coining it here in Japan.
closer to the weekend. Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon, Tokyo Hans.
Thank you, thank you. You have a good evening or slash morning, and goodbye to everybody in the chat. Thanks for listening to me ramble on here.
Take care. No, it's not rambling on you. It was great. It was great. All right. Let's go to. Oh, just hung up on that caller. Just hung up on me. We got some super chats here. Let's see. We got Jacob with $20 super sticker. Just the pair looking in the mirror saying thanks for being you with hearts popping out of his eyes. Oh, thank you, Jacob. I appreciate the super sticker. Renee. Oh yeah, check out Te Amo Camilla Vallejos by Desprecidos. That's the song Renee mentioned during the interview. Abe was against anime culture after all. Let's go to the phones. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hey, Zoe, how are you?
Yes, I'm okay.
Are you calling? We got a caller from. We had Renee on the main show calling in from Chile. We had Tokyo Hans calling in from Tokyo, Japan, and now we got Zoe calling in from your Montreal, Canada, right?
Yes, that's not very far from you, but yes.
It's still a foreign land for me. I mean, you speak a different language there, right? There you go.
Yeah.
So what's up, Zoe? What would you like to talk about?
Well, to start off, I just wanted to say it's pronounced adieu.
Oh, stop! Get out of here. I think this might be the third or fourth time you've called in to correct me specifically on that word too. Like you've called in a number of times to correct other French words, but I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time you called in about adieu.
I know. I like to be pedant.
No, I should get it right. No, I should get it right. You're right. No, what is it? It's adieu.
Yes.
What did I say?
They're not like very English sounds, so I get it.
Right. I do know how you guys say all sorts of words. Like here I am. I'm doing my best right here, right now. Here you go. Ready?
Oh boy.
I'm going to translate the word about. About.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
No, that's not. That's in English. That's the same language. We say apropos.
Apropos?
Well, yeah, like apropos.
Oh, okay. I have to say, Canada, big fan. When I visited Canada in Epcot a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Epcot.
Yeah, Epcot. Canada's in Epcot, and
Wow.
they had Canada in Epcot had, quite honestly, the best tasting frozen Coca-Cola I have ever had. It was. Do you guys is that true to form? Like if I go to Canada, real Canada right now, it's just frozen Coke all over the place. Like this your like national drink.
No.
That's too bad.
What is frozen Coke?
Oh, it's like what Slurpees are, right? Like at or Icy.
Disgusting.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, 7-Eleven, a couple blocks from me, they have frozen Coca-Cola too, like a Coca-Cola Slurpee.
Coca-Cola slush.
It's not as good. Yeah, slushy, whatever you want. Icy some places, Slurpee some places, slushy some places. But the one at Canada in Epcot was quite frankly the best one I've ever had. In the Florida heat, it never melted. It never got watery. It was the perfect mix of Slurpee, icy slushy, and the Coca-Cola syrup. It never got too icy. On the flip side, it never got too icy that like it stopped coming through the straw. It was the greatest frozen soda slash Slurpee slash icy slash slushy I have ever had. And to that I say, thank you, Canada.
You know, I hear they put liquid nitrogen in their thing, huh?
Maybe, yeah.
No.
Maybe. Well, I will say the other foods that were in Epcot in Canada, I did not try, cause man, did they lean hard on
No.
you guys and your Canadian bacon. Every
What?
Canadian
Canadian
dish,
bacon?
every Canadian dish at the at least I don't know if about the restaurants there, but the outdoor like food court in Canada in Epcot. Like their main food was like the star attraction food was a Canadian bacon burger, and I wasn't in the mood for that heavy of a food outside in the Florida heat. Do you guys eat a lot of Canadian bacon up in Canada?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's like a thing, but it's not like the first thing I think.
I
When
mean,
I
up
think.
there, you guys probably call it, as someone in the chat points out, Ramsey in the chat points out, you probably just call it bacon.
No, we don't. We
And
call
you
it
wouldn't
Canadian bacon.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes.
What's the difference between Canadian bacon and the real bacon?
Yeah, we have regular bacon. This is Canadian bacon. Is it like our version of bacon? It's just a different kind of bacon.
Oh, it looks like ham.
Yeah, it's the same kind of. Well, it's on the back of the thing.
Is Canadian bacon just pig butt?
That's ham is big, but it's more. It's like it's also called like back ham, or in French, kind of. Like-
like their back, like their spine, like.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
like around there.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I completely took this conversation in a new direction. What did you want to talk about, Zoe?
I wanted to, well, at least bring up the fact that recently the elections were started.
Oh,
For- Hmm?
you got the elections are going on right now in what, primaries, the election season. What do we got?
That's we don't have primaries here. That's not a thing.
Oh, okay. See,
The
I
par-
don't know.
par-
I don't know nothing about what you guys
Parl-
do up there.
That's You just talked about the parliamentary system. That's not a thing. And
Oh, right. Of course, we didn't have primaries there. Right. I just wasn't paying attention to myself. Okay, go ahead. So, what's going on?
yeah, so it's the elections for the province of Quebec. Uh, Basically, it's been 4 years that we've had the pretty kind of like right wing populist-ish party in power, and I don't know that they've been doing
Wait, you mean
a lot.
You mean Trudeau's not a? Oh wait, you're talking about
The province.
right. Okay, so you guys got a okay.
We have our own prime minister too.
Right. Oh, do you really?
Wait, yes, every province has its prime minister.
So, and what do they do? Is it like governors here?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, that makes
I don't
sense.
think the separation of power is the same. Basically, the federal government in Ottawa has like power over a couple things, and each province has its own provincial government and its thing. Though unlike the US, it's not exactly, because in the US you have just Republican, Democrat, and every state is either Republican or Democrat. Here and in Quebec particularly, the parties don't align with the federal parties, So it's a whole other like group of parties basically.
Okay. So
And yeah,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was going to say. So we're looking at basically. So what's the breakdown? There's 10 provinces in Canada, right?
Yeah,
What are we looking at in terms of like the parties in control? Like here in the U.S., we got unfortunately more Republican governors, than more Republican control of the state houses than Democratic control. What's the breakdown up there?
uh, mm, I don't know exactly, but I am looking it up.
Putting you on the spot here, Zoe.
Yes, because I don't know shit about the other provinces.
Right. No,
Okay, I got it here.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conservative governments, 1 NDP, 2 liberal, and in Saskatchewan is the Saskatchewan Party. Here currently is the Coalition Avenir Québec.
Now is the Saskatchewan Party looking to expand outside of Saskatchewan?
Yeah, like I said, they don't match. I mean, here in Quebec we have the Parti québécois, which is the like Quebecer party, which is the main separatist party, which was created back in the 70s for that express purpose, but since lost a lot of influence and just general like how do you call it, like trust or stuff like that.
Right.
And they've been basically sliding further right ever since. The main problem with it is that at its basis it was really just about achieving independence, but the project of independence is not like ideologically like singular. There is like a wide variety of people who can like be for the idea of like the country of Quebec for very different reasons, from like the Marxist-Leninist FLQ who in the 70s did some terrorism, to like just fasci right-wing identitarians who basically want to be able to get immigrants out and whatnot. So like that party has always been in the middle of like a wrestling between different ideological position. It started off kind of more social democrat, and has since just been going right to now it being kind of center right. So yeah, and with that came a big fall in what they're for. And so yeah, the current party in power is the Coalition Avenir Québec, or like Coalition for the Future of Quebec, kind of, which is a very new party. I technically the most recent, I would say, and they took power very quickly. Basically formed out of a different party which existed before that was a bit kind of a joke. They're like basically center right, and was formed as a coalition of like people from a bunch of different parties that existed. And since then, like, yeah, they've rapidly expanded to the point of being able to be in government and in power. Have like 4 years ago, they took a majority uh, of the parliament, which was honestly quite a shock because, like I said, new party, and like I don't remember exactly how much they gained in that election, but it was like a lot. They they weren't close. They weren't even like third. They were like third biggest party before that. They overtook two parties. Uh, After that, there's the Liberal Party.
Okay.
Liberal Party. Well, so the thing is, liberal, conservative are like the normal like Canadian parties, and yeah, in like federal governments. Uh, Here, the Liberal Party is the Conservative Party. It like ideologically, it's more like the Conservative Party. They've been like the oldest party, I think. Yeah, and basically they've been in power a lot recently, but have also lost a lot of popularity because of, well, being in power a lot, basically.
Right. I like that. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, no, and they've also seen a bit of a like being shifted to the right across the years, because funnily enough, they used to be kind of social democrats. Uh, the reason they're conservatives now is because the word conservative is kind of a pariah in most of the province, due to some history with conservatism and all that.
Would you say as in totality Canada is moving further which way?
I think it's moving more right than it is moving left.
Right.
Uh,
Do you think that
like
has to do with Trudeau having been in power for so long and the right doing a good job of framing him as well, at least here in the U.S. Maybe it's not in in Canada. Does the right there do a good job framing Trudeau as like a dirty commie, like he's as far left as possible?
uh, well, I can't say I know. Like I feel like in Quebec, especially, we're also kind of very uh, sealed to like what the rest of Canada thinks. So like I don't know exactly how he's seen in the rest, but I know
So
that
how is French Canada then? How do they view him?
yeah, here basically, uh, I think it's like he's his he's his father in a lot of ways.
And is that, I'm assuming that's a negative. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm just
I
the way you the tone of your voice when you said it told me that. I don't want to make anyone think that I knew his father's politics and am familiar with his how he ran.
it was liberal, liberal, like the all the bad things you can take from a liberal, as far as I know.
Right.
And but like more nice.
More nice? What do you
Well,
mean by
he's got
that?
a nice, he's got the smile. He's all he's
Ah.
not like uh,
Oh, so he's
arrogant.
a better politician.
Uh, hard to say. I don't
Better
think he's
better at
better
politicking.
politician.
Better at politicking.
I wouldn't say that either
Oh, okay.
because his father was hella popular, like insanely popular.
Really?
Yeah, but like it's complicated. Like he might be the most influential politician or prime minister in uh, Canadian history.
Really?
Like he
What?
did a
What?
lot.
Why so? Why do you say that? I mean,
Uh,
I could be. I mean, again, this might be very basic stuff, but I am unfamiliar.
uh, so I think his biggest thing was the repatriation of the Constitution, uh, because for the longest time in Canadian history, the Constitution of Canada was in uh, London, and he managed to get it here and also uh, be like
Like
able to
London, London, England.
yeah, it's London,
Oh,
England.
he's making because there's a London in Canada, right? Like
Yes, it's
London.
true. There's
Yeah.
London, Ontario, but
Just being
I
clear
meant
here.
to.
Just being. I mean, it
Yes.
was obvious, but I want to make it clear for even people who. I mean, even obvious to me, but for anyone who even thought that, I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it was in the UK because it was under like the Queen's control and whatnot, like officially, but not technically. But it was incredibly difficult to rewrite anything in it. So he got it back here and was able to start like negotiations to write it again. Or like, yeah,
All right.
basically. He also, was a prime minister in the 70s and 80s. So already there's a lot going on in the world. And other big thing I can think of is that he was prime minister during the October crisis here.
Okay.
If you remember me talking about Marxist-Leninist terrorists.
Oh, right. I vaguely remember. I don't remember the details, but I do remember that discussion.
Yeah, I mentioned him just earlier. Well, during that time, he was the one to call for the War Measures Act, which I think is a completely disproportionate response to what was a very minor threat of terrorism. Like the FLQ was honestly very bad at being terrorists and did not need to be stopped with tanks.
So he sort of really showed his force
Yes.
to a group of people who didn't really need it.
Yes, he was very he, he was Québécois, Pierre Trudeau, but he was very fiercely federalist.
No idea what you just said, but okay.
His name,
Oh,
Pierre Elliott
It
Trudeau.
sounded like you were saying something more. It sounded like you all of a sudden broke out into some like old like some old French Canadian saying or something.
No, I'm just saying he was from like here, like a French speaker and all that, but also very fiercely federalist, and that also played during the discussions over the Constitution because of a spat between Quebec and the other the other provinces, which led to something we call the Night of the Long Knives, which is nothing else and only in our history.
took me a second. I was like, but wait a minute. I was like, oh, okay, sarcasm.
Yeah. well, we do call it that, which is a bit extreme because no one died, but it was kind of a bit of a movie thing. Basically, during the negotiations, uh, all the prime ministers were like together, and they called for a secret meeting during the night where all 9 provincial, or not, I don't know if it was 9 at the time, I don't remember exactly, but basic, wait, no, 10, yes, all 9, I'm fucking sorry, all 9 provincial prime minister and the prime minister of Canada met up and signed the constitution without the signature of the prime minister of Quebec, which lead which has led us to be the only province to not have, to this day, signed the constitution, which technically means we're not under the we're not under the constitution, but technically it's nothing.
That's extreme. That's interesting. I mean, that's because
Yes.
you guys in your province consider yourselves a little bit different than the rest of Canada, right? It's that French
Yes,
Canadian thing, right? It's like from what I mean, I've
absolutely.
never been there, but from what I understand, from people who don't live where you do but visit, it's like almost they're visiting an entirely different country. It feels like.
I do feel the same when I go to the rest of Canada. Even last week, I went to Nova Scotia for a trip, and like I felt, and also asked my parents if they felt it, and they said they also felt that like we were in foreign land. Like this was kind of the same as just being in a different country, because it is like very much different. And it's also why we use like the acronym ROC often to say rest of Canada. Like you have Quebec and the ROC.
Got it.
Uh, so yeah, we've had a bit of a combative relationship with the federal government, and it plays a lot of parts. To go back to the election, it plays a big part in every election, even though uh, the separatist movement is basically kind of dead. Like the there's no like real popularity for it. The idea of like Quebec identity, and especially when it comes to a French language, is honestly like at the center of most debates. So like just as much as we have like the left right spectrum, we have uh, the like federalist to independentist spectrum for the parties.
Right. And this has been. I mean, I'm getting from
Yeah,
Chile from Chile to Japan and now French Canada. Uh,
yeah.
this has been an awesome show altogether. So I feel like I don't remember if you finished talking about what you called in to talk about, because
Uh,
we went all over the place here.
yeah, it was a pretty broad thing, but I guess I can finish. Well, I want to mention the Conservative Party, which I said doesn't exist, which was a bit of a lie because it's until now. Uh, well, okay, it's always existed, but always has been completely like not even looked at because it was so unimportant. But this election, very uh, like big trash radio host decided to run for uh, like leader of the party and won. And all of a sudden, he's starting to build the conservative party into like a real thing that has like people behind it. And that really worries me because to me, like my whole life, the idea of like conservatives here was just like out of your mind. And I do mean by name because again, liberals were conservative. Uh, and like on the federal level, conservatives have a few seats here, but in very like uh, distinct regions. Otherwise, it's really like not a thing that's taken seriously. But like it's hard to say now because it's very early, so you can't really tell if the polls are right. But like the Conservative Party has like a really worrisome amount of support behind it, and it's honestly like going into some really just like even more right than like you could have like your blue Tory or whatever, like in more like populist identitarian stuff.
Got it. So it's uh, basically Canada's becoming a little bit like America when it comes to the right wing.
Yes, no, there's definitely been that. It's, I mean, like we had like the whole Canadian truck shit and all that. So like, and I feel like the main reason why conservatives haven't beaten Trudeau yet is mostly because they've not been able to elect a competent leader. Uh, like the first time Trudeau was reelected, the guy was completely unlikable. The second time, he was too much to the left and not popular enough. And I say that for conservatives, of course. Uh, and now the conservatives are again fighting for leader, and it's going hard. And people are saying that the Conservative Party might again uh, separate into two different parties because until 2006, if I remember correctly, the Conservatives were two parties. One that was constantly changing, and the Progressive Conservative, which is very not sensical, but we have that here, Progressive Conservatives. And I'll say, since I've talked about like all the parties except one, I'm going to finish with the last one just to be complete, which is Québec Solidaire. So like Quebec Solidarity kind of thing, which is like our NDP, if you will.
Okay.
Basically the left, the SOCDEM, whatnot. They're also very recent. They were formed basically from like because they exist as like they're very weird in the fact that they're very different from like in structurally differently. Basically, it's a group. Well, I was gonna say a group of groups, but it's like a collection of different groups that came together to form a single party, but are still like uh, independent within the organization. And instead of electing one leader, they elect two, one man and one woman, per their rules.
Ah.
So I do think it is
Hmm.
interesting. I do like the idea of the not having a single leader. uh, Apart from that, they've been like very on the, how do you say, not in the center, on the edges of the political thing, and until recently were seen as purely a Montreal thing. Uh, but during the last election, they gained, I want to say, eight, 9 or 8 MPs, which is a lot when you only had 2. And they went to 10, and that was a surprise. And one of the biggest thing is the fact that they finally broke out of Montreal, getting someone in close to Quebec City and one close to Sherbrooke, which I'm sure you know what that means.
I have no idea.
I know. It's to the south of Montreal, closer to the border.
I tried to do a little bit of a head nod over here
Yeah.
before telling you I got no idea.
I know. I said it for the info, but so yeah, and then we have the Green Party. That's all I have to say about the Green Party. No, actually, one thing. Their leader in March of this year said that Russia's demands of denazification and non-nuclear status of Ukraine, as well as recognition of Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk, were reasonable and should be accepted.
Listen, if Ukraine comes out and says that, then who are we? But until then, anyone who says that is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, so like as if the Green Party wasn't like just laughed at for being irrelevant enough. Their leader is now also defending Russia. And also they're trying to be like not just the Green Party, but also like the bilingualism party, of being like, we're gonna give English speakers rights. Again, that's a whole deal. That there's a lot of
It's about time someone stuck up for.
yeah. Yeah, no, like every time the two things is like secular secularism and language are like the two subjects that come up every election, and like to do with like identity and shit. So yeah, no, it's kind of a bit tiring, honestly, those parts.
I can imagine.
Yeah, especially when you feel like a centrist on both these things in the grand schemes of things. But anyway, that's my piece. It's almost been 40 minutes. I can't believe it.
I mean, you gave us a complete. I mean, there were times I just sat back and let you school me on Canadian politics. I mean, this was. I almost feel like, damn, I should have invited you to be the guest on a future episode.
Yeah, I don't think I'm qualified enough for that. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
It would be really funny if we were to look up everything you said and you were completely wrong about everything.
Yeah,
You got the parties mixed up. You got the history of everything you just mentioned messed up. Justin Trudeau's dad actually was not even a politician. He was like a lumberjack or something.
Yes, the one Canadian uh, job you can have, lumberjack,
Lumberjack or Mountie.
of course.
Those are your
A
two.
cop,
Those are
dead.
your, those are your, so. Zoe, which one are you, Lumberjack or Mountie?
Lumberjack or cop? I think I'm gonna go lumberjack, because I'm no bootlicker.
All right. Oh, I like that. Oh, I got you to say the word boot as a Canadian. I
Yes,
love
okay, I
it.
realized it when I said it that
There
it
we go.
came out.
Hey,
But also
I'm no
boot
boot
is
liquor.
boot.
I love it. I love it.
About is about. Boot is boot. It's just different words.
Yes, yes, but there's one thing you definitely won't be licking, and that is a boot.
Oh my god. You can't do shit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I
I
liked
have
it
to
this
do
one.
it. I have to do it. Listen,
I had to do it, man.
if you ever wonder just how bad South Park was for the youth of America,
And the youth of me, yes.
my complete listen, how I view Canadians are based on two things basically: South Park and the Hart family, Bret Hart, Owen Hart,
Oh my
British
god.
Bulldog, etc., etc.
Right.
Basically, the first family of Canada, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't think they're the first, but they're definitely the biggest.
Right. Maybe the Gretzkys are a little bit more, but yeah, for me
Yeah,
it's the Hart Foundation. Yes, the Hart
I've
family.
I've also been tainted by the knowledge of South Park, so I can sympathize.
Right, right. You had a generation of kids in the late '90s running around screaming "Blame Canada, blame Canada." I mean,
Uh-huh.
my apologies for.
I mean, saying Blinken in Canada here is actually can be pretty popular because again, we're not fans.
Right, right.
I like saying Blink Canada. I want more. I
Is
I
it true?
want this.
Is it true what they say about Canadians always apologizing? Like, sorry, sorry.
I don't know about that. I do it, but that's because I have low confidence and self-esteem. I don't think it's about being Canadian.
Maybe that is maybe that's something all Canadians have in
Yeah,
common. Just low self-esteem, always apologetic. Zoe, this was great.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a
Okay.
fantastic night. And look, I could
Thank
say
you.
goodnight to you because you're not uh, uh,
Yes,
saying
I'm on the
hello
same
from
time
another
zone.
time zone. Yes.
It's
Take
the same.
care. Yeah.
Take care. And if I'm wrong, it's not my fault. Goodbye.
Are you apologizing in advance?
No, I literally unapologized.
There we go. That's true, right? All right. Take care, Zoe.
Take care. Ciao.
That was great. This has been a fun international night of Doomed. It's been IHOD tonight in the International House of Doomed. Oh, I need to mention this because my dad, who I believe is still in the chat, was very upset with me last week because I forgot to mention what I think was his highlight of the family trip to Disney World. And that is there was a Disney cast member, an employee at Disney World, who was working. I don't know if his comments will get him in trouble, so I'm gonna be vague about where I saw him. But in Disney World, cast members, if you're wearing the Disney birthday pin, because they give these out, if you're celebrating your birthday at Disney, you wear a pin. My family got me this pin, so I wore it. Because it was my birthday on August 23rd, and we were traveling in the park, and there was a cast member who was singing "Happy Birthday" to anyone who he saw was wearing the birthday pin. So he came to me, and I was with my dad at the time, and my dad is the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, I like your Cactus Jack shirt." I think he said it was a dude love shirt at first. Just I guess he was testing me to see if I knew the three faces of Foley. But I was wearing my Cactus Jack shirt, and he commented on it. So clearly he was a wrestling fan. And then he turns to my dad, and he's talking with my dad for a minute. And he says to my dad, who he points out his hat, I should say. And my dad is wearing the Majority Report with Sam Cedar hat. And the Disney cast member says, I really like your hat, or something to that effect. I listen to that show almost daily, or all the time, or regularly. And so my dad, who of course has to mention, because he is, I guess, very proud of the fact that I am a part of his favorite podcast, says, oh, that's Matt Binder right there. And the cast member proceeded to, I guess he didn't realize it was me, proceeded to talk about what a fan he was of the show, of Majority Report. And that was cool. And we spoke for a little bit. He sang me happy birthday. And, basically he said something to the effect of like, Majority Report, helps me get through having DeSantis as our governor here, or something like that. Which was cool. And shout out to the leftist Majority Report listener who works at Disney, who I met 2 weeks ago. Again, I don't want to say anything I don't know how things are there, so I don't want to blow anyone's spot, but my dad very much appreciated that whole interaction. And I did too. I appreciated it. The kind words and the birthday serenade. Let's go to. Oh my God! Hold on one second. Oh my God! This might be the largest super chat I've ever received on this channel. Jacob, with a $100 super chat. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jacob. And in the super chat, he says, shout out to Matt's dad. Oh, I gotta give you everything I got here.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you so much, Jacob. $100 super chat. I gotta say, I have been looking to upgrade some equipment here in the studio. Quite frankly, I was looking at monitors, because I'm sort of sick of using this one monitor here. I wanted to get a second monitor. And that's sort of like one of the number one things I'm looking at right now. There's a few other things, but that's number one. And having a second monitor will greatly help me with all these windows in this live stream program I use, because I can never find everything in one monitor screen. That's going to greatly help me get that. I really appreciate the $100 super chat. Also, I saw that Best Buy had a very cheap deal, like something like $500 off the MacBook Pro M1 Pro, like the one that's even more powerful than the M2s. And I was looking at that because I don't have a laptop. And I think that, I know it's been greatly annoying to not have I do have a MacBook that's like, what is it? 8 years old. So basically it's pointless for anything but web browsing. And I was looking at that deal because like that's like something like a $2,000 computer that like Best Buy's got for like $14.99 or something like that. but the monitor is most important right now. I need to be able to not sit in this closet space 24/7 and use a computer to do like editing and stuff. It gets hot in here when the kids are sleeping and I have to close the door. Oh, Foresto Montero with a YouTube super chat. What number do I call to call in? Okay, just open up Skype. You don't need to download the app. You could use the web app version too if you don't already have Skype. And just search Doomed Live. One word, Doomed Live. And the username will pop up. I think the full username is like Doomed, because they automatically make it for you if the exact one is taken. I don't know who else had Doomed Live, but nothing comes up when I search it other than this number, which is Doomed Live _1. But you just have to search Doomed Live. Renee says, and the M1's fast. Yes, this is I work off the Mac Mini M1, and that's the base M1. I'm talking about the M1 Pro, which is supposed to be like, I don't even know how many times faster than like even the M2, because the M2 is an upgrade from the M1, but it's not as powerful as the M1 Pro, which is a completely separate chip from Apple. It's confusing. Renee has more super chats? I thought I read them all, Pops. My dad let me know that there's more super chats from Renee. Renee also says, thank you, chat, for not trolling Zoe with eh? Also, sorry, Zoe, says Renee with a super chat. Renee also says, some people say that his dad was Fidel Castro. Oh, I forgot to bring that up with Zoe. That's right. That's hilarious that people do that. Oh, we got a call. Let me take this call. Maybe the last call of the night, depending on... it's already midnight here. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh.
Hey.
It's Cameron. How you doing, buddy?
I just wanted to stop in. And can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. Why? What's going on, Cameron?
I just wanted to stop in and prove more about how I can make all these good deals and I can make the money, man. It's about the money, man.
Are you singing a remix of the old Vince McMahon theme song? Oh no, that's the Shane McMahon theme song. From Here Comes the Money.
No,
money.
It is a Bone Thug song, but I can't remember the lyrics. Anyway, look what I got for $50-something. Bum-ba-da-dum.
Wait, what do you got?
1 second. It's missing. I have to put this microphone down. It's fake anyway. It's not connected to anything. I got this.
Oh my God, is that a real deal?
I bought an accordion.
It's awesome. It sounds like you could play it. Do you know how to play an accordion?
I know how to play all musical instruments because of a chip that the government put in my head.
No, but really, do you know how to play accordion?
I'm just pretty good at it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It plays itself, man. You know, all instruments play themselves if you allow
it sounded like you were playing
to give into the...
It sounded like you knew how to play that before. Now I don't know, but it sounded like you knew how to play it.
I don't fucking know how to play it. Also,
whatever you were doing before,
like, broken. It's really old and.
Where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? He does not hear me. Where did you get it?
I bought it at a pawn shop for $58.
Oh, not
And
bad.
I tried to look it up, and apparently these things are worth much more than $58.
Really? What's the brand name? Give me. Let's see how much you got here. Go ahead. What is it?
It's
Honer?
Honer.
Is there any details in terms of like a number? Like a
No, because this company infamously did not keep track of any of their serial numbers.
Oh my god!
But I've looked inside of it.
Dude!
The components are made out of wood. They've swollen to the point where some of the buttons are not jamming because they're made of wood, and what it is, it's a wood button connected to a spring that activates a thing that opens up a valve, cause a reed to vibrate. So I'm guessing this thing must be like, pretty old. This is a name brand company.
Dude, I'm looking. I'm seeing thousands of dollars for some of these Honer accordions.
Yes, and I can tune this up because I am very good with my hands. As you know, from our last meeting. Yeah, I don't even know what I meant by that. I took a pill earlier. I'm probably not gonna remember this. But
do you remember buying the accordion, or did you go in?
It has a beautiful cello-like sound. But the keys aren't.
Sounds good to me.
Anyway, what that means is that I've possibly invested in something. I've gotten something at like a 90% off deal. And if I can continue with this, if I can re-up buying these accordions every week and pawn them off again and again, that is a business model that will never end.
There you go, folks. You heard it here, from crypto mining to full-time accordion seller.
Crypto, listen to me. The update that I wanted to bring to the people is that, guess what, baby? Crypto has been replaced with accordions.
There you go.
And I have met Weird Al Yankovic in person, and he is a good man.
I've heard he's a good guy. Actually, I've heard he's a very nice guy. I've heard anything.
No, he's fantastic.
I don't think
he's
there's any
short,
bad
but
stories.
he's exceptionally wide.
Oh, what?
His reach.
How tall
he's like
is Weird
5 foot
Al?
nothing, but he's got reach like a goddamn.
Dude, it says here he's 6 feet tall.
That cannot be possible because I met him and he was shorter than me.
Are you 6'1"?
No, I'm 5'10".
Dude, it says he's 6 feet tall, man.
Well, maybe he was like crouching down to try and make me feel like more of a man, because when I approached him, I was like, Mr. Weird, it's so nice to meet you. And he was like, please call me Al. And I thought, that's not your song.
Well, it makes sense because Al is his last name. I don't call you Mr. Cameron, right? Weird is his first name.
Al
is his last name.
Weird Al Yankovic's his last name is Al. That is true. And I would take offense to you.
I was just calling him Weird Al, man. Thank you for ruining it by mentioning that he does go by Weird Al Yankovic. All right. Well, no, actually, Al was his mother's name, and Yankovic was his father's last name, because they did the dash thing. His name is Weird Al Yankovic. Weird is his first name, and Al Yankovic is his last name.
Yeah, because he's obviously he's like a Moroccan Muslim. He's definitely Arabic in origin. I know that you can point these things out as a non-white person yourself, but because I am not so brown skinned as you. I'm glad that you brought it up first. That weird Al Yankovic.
His name is Weird Al Yankovic.
Weird, weird Al Yankovic.
When kids would go to the Al Yankovic household, they would ask Mr. or Mrs. Al Yankovic, "Hey, can Weird come out and play? Hey, can little Weird come out and play?"
And then they say, not until he's finished eating his couscous.
Right. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Anyway.
This was a good one, Cameron. This is you're on fire again. Have a good night, buddy. You should make a Doomed theme song because with the accordion. Good night.
I'll do it later. I'll figure it out. I'll come back with it later. Good night.
I'm loving the idea of Weird being his first name and his last name being like Arabic or just like the dash Weird Al Yankovic. Mr. Al Yankovic. Please just call me Weird. Al Yankovic was my dad. Mr. Al Yankovic was my dad's name. Oh my God. All right, I think we got a tight show tonight. I think that was a very tight, almost 3 hours. I thought I was doing a tight 2-hour show tonight. Oh boy, it's already 12:30 almost. Weird Al Yankovic. Oh my God. Let's make sure I got all the super chats here. Oh wait, someone tried calling in and they were a first-time caller. If you want to call in, I'll take your call. You could be the last caller if you want to call in. You don't have to. Try again if you want to. Tokyo Hans with a super chat. Sorry, my internet died before. My lunch was Nagasaki champon. It was amazing. I have no idea what that is. Renee says with a super chat, like an anarcho-capitalistic pirate. Crew her Orcs. Oh, Crew her RX. Oh, you told me how to pronounce it perfectly. With a $10 super chat. Hey Matt, I'm an anti-WWE wrestling fan. And I gotta say, the Punk backstage drama has been some great wrestling. Tony Khan needs to bring him in line, and this too TV. Crew her RX is how to pronounce. I have been trying to follow this, and it sounds insane. Maybe the most insane wrestling drama in a while. I'm a big Punk fan too. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I don't know who was in the wrong with the Young Bucks. I mean, I think he should be able to talk shit on a presser, and they should take it as it's good for business, no matter if the shit talk is real or not. Whoever got physical backstage is automatically in the wrong. Whoever initiated that. But shit talk in the presser should be, even real shit talk should honestly be encouraged. And they should all be grown up and professional about it and understand that these sorts of feuds could be good money. Because as long as no one goes into business for themselves and tries to actually hurt somebody in a match, then bring these real life beefs to the screen and let everyone make money off of it. And everyone should be professional and watch out for each other and take care of each other's health and everything. And everyone makes money off of these kind of things. But his continuation of the feud with the real life feud with Colt Cabana. I mean, at this point, I know he was upset by the rumors going around about why Colt Cabana was fired and then rehired and then put on Ring of Honor and kept off of AEW. But I mean, All right. Oh, we got a call. Let me take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where you coming? Excuse me. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Forrest from the Napa Valley, California.
Hey, Forrest from Napa Valley. And might I ask, are you the same Forrest who just became a Patreon?
I am, because I was trying to figure out what the phone number was for the show.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Maybe you started on the Patreon.
No, I should more. I should definitely have that number somewhere. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you for becoming a patron, even if it was just to get the number. And I appreciate the support.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if you remember me, but I am the guy who wrote a super chat a few weeks ago about getting on the school board.
I do recall that. Again, I don't recall all the details, but I recall that story.
Yeah. Basically, I ran unopposed because it's a small rural area.
Right.
And I just really want to advocate for everyone else out there to run for some kind of like small and local office. Doesn't have to be a national congressional seat or anything. Just, you know. Sorry, I'm out of breath because I'm walking.
That's all good.
Yeah, and I can tell you from my experience, a lot of the people in there are really not really aware of what's going on within the community. Like, they know the stuff they need to know to like keep their seat, but they don't really have their finger on the pulse of like what actually matters. Like, for example, we were talking about benefits, like post-COVID benefits for teachers, just like, oh, maybe we should give them a bonus or something. And everybody else on the board was just talking about it from the context of like, oh, how can we use this to strengthen our position during union negotiations? And I mean, that's such a shallow way to look at what happened, you know, to look at the financial benefits that we gave out as a district. And I want to preface that by saying, or well, it's a bit late to preface, but I just want to say that we had over $11 million just sitting in a bank account, totally unallocated spending money. So it's not like we couldn't afford to hand out one-time bonuses, you know?
Right.
And I just think it's really important for people to get out there and put themselves out there to get active within the local community in that way, because people don't realize both how easy it can be to just kind of slide in the door, and also how much power those tiny positions actually have, or those seemingly tiny positions. Because I'm just some dude. I don't have like a doctorate in education or anything like that. I'm just a security guard, and I just kind of wandered in unopposed and took a seat of like one of 5 people controlling tens of millions of dollars. So anybody could do that, is my point.
No, I think this is a really great point, and people should without a doubt copy the what you did. I mean, look for a seat in an office that's being ignored. Probably a lot of them in your area, and this is me talking to everybody here. I mean, probably not so much where I live in New York City, because I'm pretty sure that just on account of there being so many people, probably everyone looks out for these sort of positions. But in your town or city or wherever, odds are there is some powerful position that is being ignored, and you could possibly run unopposed. Or run in a race that you can easily win, even if you aren't running, even if there is you do have a political opponent.
Yeah, and also something I've noticed too is a lot of state level positions will just have one person who just keeps running and winning and never gets opposed. And in a lot of those cases, I think you could have a strong candidacy just by putting your name on the ballot. That's not like the treasurer of California or whatever is out there campaigning for his office, you know?
Right.
Like people just feel like, oh, there's a dude and there's another dude, and then they're just gonna pick one at random in a lot of cases. So just putting your name on the ballot in situations like that, there's at least some percent chance you could just like become some high level position in California. Like I've noticed these a few times in the last few elections. Just these seemingly powerful positions where it's just one person running.
Right. Right. I mean, I think everyone who's ever thought about, or even if you haven't, consider it. If this is something you think you could do. And again, some of these positions, like you're still doing your regular job, right? This isn't your full-time thing, obviously.
Oh yeah, I was still doing my normal job alongside my school board duties, and then I was getting primo healthcare, like the best healthcare I've ever gotten, basically for free.
And now,
also a few
No, go ahead.
$100 a month, a few $100 a week. I mean, it wasn't huge; it was like 200, but I mean, it's something.
Now, did your life change after you ran and won?
In the sense that I had, I mean, yeah, kind of. I had to be more involved with what was going on, and there was a certain amount of informational stuff I had to learn and appointments I had to keep. But for the most part, it was really just one meeting a month and then a few like committee meetings here and there. And other than that, it wasn't a huge commitment.
I asked that because I think anyone who thinks about running for office usually thinks, oh, you know, everything will change. My life will be, you know, it'll be upheaval. Everything will be different. I mean, yeah, things are different in terms of like your power and responsibility, but like, it's not like you're on a national stage. You're able to still live your life while also doing what's good for your community.
Yeah, it was I really enjoyed. Okay, I didn't enjoy the process of being there, but I enjoyed the opportunity to really do something. You know.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure the process is fun, right?
Yeah, it's just a lot of sitting through like, okay, now we're going to Article 1A3, subparagraph 5 or whatever, you know. Yeah, but it was definitely really interesting, and I can definitely say anybody who's listening to this podcast would likely be a lot better than the people who were in there. I have a lot of just weird stories about my interactions with people there.
Right. I'm sorry. I got my headphones just when you were talking. I got the beep in my head that my headphones are almost dead.
That's okay. That's okay. Do you want me to?
I know it's been a good episode of the show when my headphones are telling me that we've gone from 100% to almost 0 within the entirety of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for the call, Forrest. This was great. And also thanks for becoming a patron. And do call in again and give us updates about how things are going, so people.
I'm no longer on the board because we had to move for my wife's work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was a couple years ago. I was on the board for about a year.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I
but
should have said
no. I mean, maybe you did mention it and I just misunderstood or misheard.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, okay. Well, thanks a lot then. Nah. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for calling in. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. Bloop, bloop. All right, folks. I think I got all the patrons who joined so far. I got all the super chats, I believe. Oh, over on Twitch. Oh, while I read the Twitch stuff, who should I raid on Twitch as we wrap it up here? Who should I raid on Twitch? Consider it. Let me know who you think I should raid. Let's see here on Twitch. What am I reading here? What? I'm sorry. I'm having a. What is this? Someone else is calling in. All right, let me take it really quick. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt, it's Richard Marxist from Michigan.
Hey, Richard Marxist. What would you like to talk about?
I just wanted to pop in real quick. We talked before, about a month back, about the Jack Bergman stuff in Michigan.
Oh, right.
It was him and his phony voter fraud stuff in Antrim County. That's not what I'm calling to talk about, though. I just wanted to see if it refreshed your memory. I just wanted to say with that last caller, that is so true to just start small, because the ripple effect from getting into those small local offices makes such a difference. Right. And just don't take that lightly, because it is the way to start the change, is to start small in your own community.
Oh, absolutely.
And I also just wanted to ask if you have done any episodes of Scam Economy on Richard Hart at all that I have missed. And Hex.
Oh, no, I have not done that yet. No.
Okay, because one of my friends is deep into that, and I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, and the first thing he told me is he's going to save my life by getting me into Hex and Pulse Chain.
Oh, he is he?
And it was a very interesting conversation. And when I started looking into what Hex and Pulse Chain really is, and who Richard Hart, who runs Hex and Pulse Chain, really is, it seemed like an episode of Scam Economy. So I just figured if you haven't done it yet, I'd give you a little tip to look into this. Richard Hart, because
I am familiar with him, but I've yet to do an episode.
His streams are something to watch.
I'm familiar with him, but I've yet to do an episode. I definitely need to get on top of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I guess Pulse Chain is launching soon, or Pulse X and Pulse Chain is on the verge. It's on the verge of launching.
Yep. I'm sure it's going to be. He's the guy who bought that like diamond from space or whatever.
Yes, and he's got the rotating watches next to him on his stream all the time, and he kicks out anyone who's a naysayer on his stream and calls them all kinds of derogatory names, and his crowd loves it.
I gotta say, I have to log into his streams. I've yet to really check out his streams. You're saying they're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, good in the content for Scam Economy way.
Oh, of course. That's what I mean by good.
All right, man. Before your headphones die on you, I just wanted to call in and give you the heads up on the Hex and the Pulse Chain.
Oh no, perfect. This was great. I'll have to check it out. Thanks for the call.
All right, love your content, man. Keep it up.
I really appreciate it. Take care.
You too.
What am I doing here? What is this? Um. What is this? Okay, let's do the Twitch stuff. Professor Q, thank you for cheering with 5 bits. Don James 1676, thank you for cheering with 100 bits. Oh, we got a hype train earlier? I missed it. Level 2 hype train. 3 sub gifts and 100 bits. Jerry's Cole. 100 bits, thank you. Tokyo Hans gave out 2 community gift subs. And what's this? Don James 1676 resubscribed at tier 1, subscriber for 2 months. Still around. I didn't get to hear Renee, but I'm sure it was good. Oh, you'll be able to check it out. Sid Fishes with 100 bits. Thank you so much. And let's go to now I'm looking at Richard Hart stuff. I need to do an episode on Richard Hart. I'm for Scam Economy for sure. All right, that's the show, guys. That's the show today. I thought it was a great show, great episode. Who am I rating? I missed it. Who am I rating? This afternoon was the first episode of ESVN. Emma Vigland of the Majority Report's new sports show on the Majority Report network. I believe it started with 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. She has a sports show now, ESVN. Great name, by the way. Emma Sports Vigland Network. I like that. That's clever. Who do we got? Poly People. That's a good one to do. I got 2 people saying that. I'll raid Poly People. I got 3 people saying Poly People now. That makes the decision very easy for me. Let's raid Poly People. And with that said, folks, I will see you all next time on Doomed.